Chapter 652. Get out of my way! Han Yunchong roared furiously like a clap of thunder. He used a secret method, and his blood and chi soared into the sky. His strength was great enough to move mountains and shake ancient dragons and elephants. However, his full-strength attack only caused the cyan palm print to tremble, and his uncle continued to press down. Boom! The void around Han Yunchong was covered and confined by the power of this palm print, making it impossible for him to escape. However, he still didn't seem to believe it. His eyes almost popped out of their sockets, and he roared madly. His feet suddenly stomped on the void like a giant elephant striding forward. His body suddenly expanded, and his muscles bulged as if they were made of copper. His figure became more and more powerful, and he raised his hands as if he could crush the world. He was too strong. He was like an angry god. However, under everyone's shocked gazes, the Taowu seal continued to press down on Han Yunchong inch by inch. No matter how Han Yunchong roared with rage, how he activated his secret techniques, and even how he damaged his own cultivation and ignited his own quintessence, he was unable to change the pressure of the Taowu seal. Moo! Suddenly, a cold and indifferent roar sounded out from the palm print, and a phantom of a swanee appeared. It was shaped like a tiger, had a dragon's head, phoenix scales, and a snake's tail. It was as big as a hill, and its eyes were like the sun and the moon. In an instant, Yi Lingtong and the others shivered and almost fell from the void. It was as if they had seen a real swanee appear from time immemorial, trampling through the mountains and rivers, and flattening the world. Plop! Han Yunchong roared unwillingly and in horror. His body was pressed down fiercely, and the sound of bones cracking came out. Blood flowed from his 7 apertures, and his skin cracked all over. He was like a man made of blood, and his appearance was extremely miserable. You can't kill me. Otherwise, the Han clan will absolutely not forgive you. At this critical moment, Han Yunchong roared. Lin Sun was unmoved. The swanee seal crushed down, and along with a bang, Han Yunchong's body completely exploded into pieces of flesh and blood that dyed the void red. A famous Tao Insight Realm cultivator of the East Sea was killed with a single slap? Hiss! The sound of gasping could be heard. All the people present were silent, and their expressions were dull. Even Yi Lingtong and Yi Dongke were shocked by this scene. Their minds were in a daze and their vision blurred. Han Yunchong was a powerful cultivator of the Han family. He had dominated the world for decades and was known as one of the most difficult Grotto Heaven Realm cultivators in the East Ocean. It could be said that there were very few people in the world who could kill such a person, unless an expert above the reincarnation developing realm took action. Killing and defeating were two completely different things. Even grand cultivators of the same cultivation level might have a chance of defeating Han Yunchong, but to kill him was simply too difficult. But now Han Yunchong had been killed. The most terrifying thing was that he wasn't even able to receive a single palm strike from that youth. In fact, he wasn't even able to escape. With an unwilling and furious roar, he lost his life above this blue sea. This seemed to be too astounding, and if news of this were to spread, then probably no one would dare believe it. After all, even if a great cultivator at the reincarnation development stage came, he would not be able to kill a being at the Tao Insight realm so easily. Who was that young man? Could it be that he was a reclusive old monster? No. He was still young and definitely not some old monster. Both Yi Lingtong and Yi Dongke were aware of this. In the cultivation world, it might be difficult to judge how old a practitioner was, but it could be roughly determined. Generally speaking, the older generation of practitioners had the breath of time. No matter how well they concealed it, no matter how young their appearance were, as long as one perceived it carefully, one could still detect the truth. This could absolutely not be fake. After all, the way of time was the supreme law of heaven. Looking at the whole world, who could erase the traces of time on their body? But Lin Sun was vigorous, and the breath in his body was as vigorous as a furnace. He was just like the rising sun, a young man in his prime. It would be a big joke to say that he was an old monster, but this truth made Yi Lingtong and the others more and more shocked. A real young man had killed a fierce figure of the older generation at the Tao Insight realm with one palm strike. So how terrifying was his cultivation? Lin Sun seemed to have done something that couldn't be more ordinary. What a joke! In the secret land of demon saints, he had killed so many heroes of all clans that they threw away their helmets and armor, and even Nyo Tunshin, a great saint, had been suppressed by him. Now he just killed Han Yunchong, which had no influence on Lin Sun at all. He began to count the trophies. However, to Lin Sun's disappointment, he couldn't see anything except for dozens of high-grade spiritual crystals on Han Yunchong's body. The reason was simple. The higher one's cultivation was, the more picky and demanding the demand for cultivation resources became. Some things that were regarded as treasures by ordinary practitioners were of little value to Lin Sun. This was also an important reason why practitioners were so eager to go to the ancient desolation territory for cultivation. The cultivation resources in the mortal world could no longer meet their needs, so they had to choose to leave and go to a more prosperous place for cultivation. For example, in Xiao Empire, Yao Tuohai could dominate the southwest province of the empire. But in the depths of the Soul Oblivion Sea, there were countless people like Yao Tuohai. It could be seen how poor the cultivation environment of Xiao Empire was. Otherwise, people like Yao Tuohai couldn't have been famous in a province. Thank you for your help this time. We will never forget it. We will repay you in the future. At this time, Yi Lingtong took a deep breath and seemed to have summoned up her courage. She stepped forward and bowed to express her gratitude. After hesitating for a moment, she continued to ask, "But, may I know your name, child?" Lin Sun didn't answer but asked, "Do you know King of Donghai Yi Qingtian?" Yi Lingtong was stunned and then said seriously, "That's my ancestor." She couldn't help but feel a touch of pride in her heart. It turned out that this incredibly powerful young man also knew the name of the old ancestor. It turns out that they are from the Yi family, Lin Sun thought. One of the reasons why he intervened this time was that he thought of Yi Qi and King of Donghai Yi Qingtian, so he chose to intervene forcefully. Otherwise, if he just wanted to help, Lin Sun wouldn't have easily killed Han Yunchong and offended the Han family for no reason. Since you know the old ancestor of the Yi family, you must also know that no one in the East Sea dares to provoke you with the background and power of the Yi family. Even if the Han family wants to retaliate, they won't dare to go against us. On the other side, Yi Dongke also spoke. Although he said so, the meaning in his words was very obvious. Lin Sun's killing of Han Yunchong would inevitably lead to the Han family's revenge. But if you have the protection of the Yi family, you don't have to worry about this problem. Further understanding, it could be seen that Yi Dongke still didn't give up and wanted to recruit Lin Sun to join the Yi family. Lin Sun was such a character that he naturally understood the implication. He glanced at Yi Dongke indifferently and said, "I saved you, but you want me to join your Yi family because of this?" Yi Dongke's heart trembled, but he still insisted on saying, "Young master, we are grateful for your kindness in saving our lives and will definitely repay you generously. However, for the sake of your safety, I personally suggest that the Yi family should step in and guarantee that the Han family will not take revenge on you." Lin Sun's eyes were a little cold. "Do you think I killed Han Yunchong just to ask you to repay me?" "Child, don't get me wrong. We absolutely don't mean that." Yi Lingtong was so anxious that she couldn't help glaring at Yi Dongke to make him shut up. Yi Dongke laughed. "Haha, young master, to put it bluntly, you have killed Han Yunchong now. If my Yi clan does not intervene, the Han clan will definitely retaliate against you. At that time, I'm afraid you will never be able to leave the East Sea again. I'm just stating a fact. I hope you don't misunderstand and think twice before you act." Immediately, he said proudly, What's more, what's wrong with joining the Yi family? Child, you have excellent talent and outstanding strength. If you have the full support of the Yi family, you will be like a tiger with wings. In the future, you won't have to worry about cultivation resources. This is a win-win situation. Why do you refuse? Yidonka, how can you do this? Yi Lingtong was so angry that her cheeks turned red. Lin Sun was their life-saving benefactor, but Yidonka threatened Lin Sun with this and wanted him to join the Yi family. What was the difference between this and biting the hand that fed him? Yi Lingtong almost couldn't believe that Yidonka would do such a despicable thing. Cousin, you don't understand. I'm doing this for the sake of this child. Yidonka smiled and looked at Lin Sun. Child, what do you think of my suggestion? I don't think I should have saved you just now. Lin Sun looked indifferent. His words made Yidonka's expression stagnate and a little angry. Immediately, he suppressed his unhappiness and frowned. Child, I know people like you must be unyielding and disdainful of bowing to any force. But the reality is cruel. In the Xiao Empire, all the cultivation resources are controlled by the major forces. My suggestion is for your own good. After a pause, he slightly raised the corner of his mouth and said, What's more, child, you killed a great practitioner of the Tao Insight realm of the Han family. Maybe we can protect you for a while out of gratitude for saving your life. But in the future, who will offend the Han family for you? Yidonka. Yi Lingtong was so angry that she trembled all over. I know you are anxious to rise in the clan and want to win over some masters to help you. But what you are doing now is too shameless and despicable. If the head of the family knows it, he will definitely punish you severely. Cousin, I told you that you don't understand. This is competition. Among the younger generation of the Yi family, who doesn't want to stand out and compete for more resources of the clan. But you also know that if you want resources you have to fight for them. Fight for them. Yidonka said coldly, This is the reality. Everything is a game of survival of the fittest. Even if the head of the family knows it, he will turn a blind eye to it. Yi Lingtong was so angry that she didn't know what to say. She really didn't know that her cousin was hiding such a cruel ambition. At this time, Lin Sun finally opened his mouth. He looked at Yidonka and asked, Have you finished? These 3 words were light and light, just like Lin Sun's expression at the moment, which was also indifferent and calm. Yidonka couldn't help being stunned. He had said so much, tempted and threatened Lin Sun, and said it very clearly, without any ambiguity or euphemism, but Lin Sun still didn't seem to care? Have you made up your mind? Yidonka took a deep breath and asked with a frown, This is an excellent opportunity. The reason why I invited you so warmly is also to thank you for saving us just now. If it were someone else, I wouldn't bother to waste my breath. You should know that not every Tom, Dick or Harry is worth my effort. Child, please calm down. My cousin is ignorant and blinded by lard. I hope you can forgive him and not argue with him. Yi Lingtong's heart trembled. She keenly sensed that under Lin Sun's seemingly calm appearance, there was a trace of indistinct killing intent at this moment. Enough. Yidonka frowned and stared at Yi Lingtong. Cousin, do you know why you are not valued by the clan until now? The reason is that you are too soft-hearted and meddlesome. You. Yi Lingtong was so angry that she gnashed her teeth and trembled all over. How could he be like this? How could he be like this? Lin Sun felt a little strange at this moment. He raised his eyes and looked into the distance, seeming to notice something. He pondered for a moment and suddenly said, Originally, I had some karma with Yi family, so I didn't want to embarrass you. But obviously, people like you don't deserve my consideration at all. Yidonka's face suddenly became gloomy, and his heart was filled with anger. This guy was still so stubborn, which made him feel that all his good intentions just now were in vain. Did he really think that he could do whatever he wanted in the East Sea because he was strong? Do you know Yi Chi? Lin Sun didn't bother to pay attention to Yi Dongke anymore. He looked at Yi Lingtong, who was stunned, and said subconsciously, "Of course I know him. He is the eldest son of my uncle." "That's good. Come with me." Lin Sun waved his hand and took Yi Lingtong onto vast universe arc, regardless of whether she agreed or not. "By the way, who are those attendants?" Yi Lingtong felt that Lin Sun's current behavior was a little strange. He was actually concerned about those attendants, but she still answered patiently, "They are cousin Dongkas." "Do you want to go with me?" Lin Sun asked. Those attendants shook their heads, and many of them revealed looks of pity and disdain. "Only an idiot would go with you. Han Yunchong was killed by you. What if he was chased by the Han family's experts?" Lin Sun smiled and didn't think much of it. He drove vast universe arc and took Yi Lingtong with him, disappearing from this area in the blink of an eye. "Young master, are you really going to let him leave?" a attendant asked. "Humph, when he is chased by the Han family, he will naturally understand the cruelty of reality. At that time, he will naturally obediently surrender to me in order to save his life." Yi Dongke coldly snorted. Although he said this, he was still a little unwilling and annoyed. He thought that Lin Sun was stubborn and didn't know what was good for him. Strange, why did that guy take Miss Lingtong with him when he left? It is too dangerous for her to follow him. She will definitely be chased by the Han family. Isn't this a trap for Miss Lingtong? Another attendant was puzzled. Yi Dongke was stunned. He also felt that Lin Sun's reaction just now was a little strange. At this time, a deafening roar came from the distant sky like thunder. As soon as the sound appeared, small battleships, like black clouds, rushed towards this area with great momentum, crushing the clouds. There were 10 Zing battleships. Yi Dongke was stunned. When he saw the flags hanging on those battleships, his face suddenly became pale and his eyes showed a look of horror. That was the White Spirit Tree flag, the symbol of the Han family in the East Sea. Those attendants were also stiff and their faces changed greatly as if they had fallen into an ice cave. Was it possible that the Han family had sent 10 Zing battleships to deal with them? Could it be that the young man had already noticed all this in advance, so he left in a hurry with Miss Lingtong? A attendant exclaimed as if he had guessed something. All of a sudden, Yi Dongke and other attendants were like being struck by lightning. Yes, why did 10 battleships belonging to the Han family appear as soon as the young man left? When he left, why did he leave them behind and not tell them about it? That guy did it on purpose. He is retaliating against me. Yi Dongke was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. He roared hoarsely. How could he remain calm in the face of the threat of 10 Zing battleships? How could he not be resentful when he thought that Lin Sun had obviously perceived the threat in advance but deliberately concealed it from him? Revenge. This was definitely revenge. The attendants were all dumbfounded and regretted their decision. After all, Lin Sun had just asked them if they wanted to leave together with him just now. Chapter 653. Child, why do you want to take me away? On the way, Yi Lingtong calmed down and suddenly felt that something was wrong. Lin Sun's reaction just now was too strange. It seemed a little abnormal to leave at once. There will be danger there. Lin Sun didn't hide it and said indifferently, "If my perception is right, the danger comes from the Han family. They not only sent Han Yunchong, but also 10 Zing battleship." At the end of his words, a strange color flashed through his eyes. Because the 10 Zing battleships were the new type of battleships jointly developed by him and old Mo Danger. Yi Lingtong was shocked and her face suddenly changed. "Child, why don't you tell my cousin?" Speaking of this, she suddenly came to her senses and couldn't help but show a touch of bitterness at the corner of her mouth. "Will you blame me for being cruel?" Lin Sun said with a faint smile. Yi Lingtong shook her head quickly, and her expression was uncertain. Finally, she sighed faintly, "My cousin has gone too far. Maybe he deserves it." Immediately, she summoned up her courage and said, "Child, I want to go back and have a look. Anyway, I'm a member of the Yi family after all. I can't watch them suffer. Hearing this, Lin Sun was slightly stunned. Then he nodded and said, Okay, but I won't interfere in this matter anymore. He appreciated Yi Lingtong very much. She was a reasonable woman who distinguished kindness and resentment. If not, he wouldn't take Yi Lingtong alone when he left. Thank you, child. Yi Lingtong didn't have any hope at first, but when she saw Lin Sun readily agreed, she was more grateful. Let's go. With a whoosh, the vast universe arc flashed in the void and disappeared in an instant. Boom! 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 In the void, 10 Ziying battleships were like floating black clouds, covering the sky. The battleships roared, and the dense spiritual tattoo earth formation flashed brilliantly. Dragging long tails, the spiritual cannons tore through the void and made deafening roars. The dense and terrible cannon fire covered the sea area. The sea was boiling, setting off towering waves, and the void was chaotic. The terrible power waves raged like a storm dancing here. Under the siege of this dense artillery fire, Yi Dongke and his attendants were completely submerged. Ziying battleship was a big killing weapon that could give a Tao Insight Realm powerhouse a headache. Compared with the attack of Ziying battleship, Yi Dongke and his companions were too insignificant and weak at the moment. As soon as the battle broke out, they fell into an absolutely dangerous situation. Damn it! It's all that little bastard's fault, it's all his fault. Yi Dongke was like a beast trapped in a desperate situation. His eyes were bloodshot, and his expression was twisted with hatred. He was filled with unwillingness. He knew that he was destined to die today. But he was so aggrieved in his heart that he thought Lin Sun was deliberately retaliating and trapping him, which made him mad with hatred. Did you hear that? Even before your cousin died, he still believed that I was the one who harmed him. For someone like him, even if the Han family doesn't kill him today, I will not spare him. Not far from the battlefield, the vast universe arc was anchored in the void. Lin Sun, with his hands behind his back, looked at all this indifferently with cold eyes. Beside him, Yi Lingtong was shocked and angry. She was shocked because the Han family really sent out 10 Ziying battleships, which made her feel cold. She was angry because Yi Dongke still didn't wake up at this time, thinking that everything he suffered was caused by Lin Sun. He deserved to die. But as a member of the Yi family, Yi Lingtong still couldn't bear to see Yi Dongke and his companions being killed by the Han family's battleships. I'd rather he die in your hands. Yi Lingtong gritted her teeth. She was so angry at the moment that she didn't know what to do. Isn't it the same no matter who kills him? Lin Sun glanced at her and knew that she still had a glimmer of hope in her heart that he would help Yi Dongke. Yi Lingtong's pretty face turned pale in an instant, and her figure was shaking. She knew that Lin Sun would never do it again. At this time, in the distant battlefield, the resentful roar of Yi Dongke still echoed. He cursed Lin Sun, thinking that he was despicable and deliberately didn't warn them to kill them. Hearing all this, Yi Lingtong was completely disappointed. She sighed in her heart. This is really a self-inflicted disaster. After a while, the voices of Yi Dongke and his companions disappeared completely. It was impossible for them to survive the dense gunfire. No, they found us and are coming here. Suddenly, Yi Lingtong found that 10 Ziying battleships in the distance were rushing towards them at full speed. It's the girl of the Yi family. It's strange. Where is Elder Han Yunchong? With his power, how could he let these puppies of the Yi family live until now? Don't worry about it. Let's kill them first. Chaotic voices came from the Ziying battleship. Those were the voices of the practitioners of the Han family, full of killing intent. Let's go, child. Yi Lingtong's face was pale. Today, she had experienced a dangerous pursuit and barely managed to survive. Now, she had personally witnessed a tragedy befall her cousin. Now, the Han family sent 10 Ziying battleships to encircle and annihilate them. This series of attacks made Yi Lingtong feel like collapsing. When had she ever experienced such a dangerous, terrible, infuriating, and helpless thing in her life? Go? Why do you want to go? Lin Sun stared at the void in the distance with his black eyes. Although Yi Dongke deserved to die, he was your clansman after all. Since he was killed, I should give an explanation to your family. Yi Lingtong was stunned. Immediately, she saw Lin Sun take out a big bow with a rough and ferocious aura. The body of the bow was like a string of skulls. The bowstring was slender and bright red, as if it had been soaked in blood. It had a kind of bloodthirsty and coquettish aura. Insignificant longbow. Lin Sun suddenly pulled the bowstring with his slender white fingers. An obscure buzzing sound spread from the bow, like a cry of joy eager to drink blood. The void around Lin Sun collapsed inch by inch at this moment. It seemed that it couldn't bear this kind of power. Yi Lingtong couldn't help holding her breath. At this moment, Lin Sun narrowed his eyes slightly, as if he was waiting quietly. What's that guy going to do? Deal with us with a broken bow? Ha ha ha, it's the first time I've seen such a ridiculous thing. This is called a mantis trying to stop a chariot. It's ridiculous that he overestimates himself. Damn, it's so funny. This guy is also from Yi family. Is he out of his mind? This is the Ziying battleship. How can he fight against us with a broken bow? On the Ziying battleship in the distance, a group of Han family practitioners roared with laughter. Their expressions were full of banter. Bang! At this moment, Lin Sun shot an arrow. The blood-red bowstring trembled, but the spiritual arrow that was shot out was silent. It was as if it was transparent and there was no trace of it. But Yi Lingtong's scalp was numb and she felt cold all over. This attack was too weird and horrible. It was a kind of indescribable fatal power. Boom! In the blink of an eye, a Ziying battleship burst into pieces. The blazing flame burned the void like a volcanic eruption, which was quite spectacular. One arrow destroyed a Ziying battleship. In an instant, the practitioners of Han family on the other 9 Ziying battleships were completely dumbfounded. They couldn't believe this scene. A Ziying battleship, which could give a headache to a Tao Insight Realm strongman and was known as a great killing weapon among the small battleships of the Empire, was destroyed in this way? It was as unreal as a dream. Since the new Ziying battleship came out, this classic killing weapon was quickly equipped in the army of the Empire and was sought after by countless strongmen. Its defense was amazing and its combat power was terrible. On the real battlefield, it was enough to exert a lethality that made the enemy desperate. But now, such a Ziying battleship was destroyed by an almost invisible arrow. What's that bow? Is it a peerless treasure? Who's that guy? Why didn't the news mention that there was such a person in Yi family? Attack! Attack with all your strength! Clamorous cries of alarm and angry roars rose and fell one after another. The 9 Ziying battleships roared fiercely and surrounded this area, pouring out dense and blazing cannons to cover this area. If this scene happened on the land, it was enough to destroy a city in an instant. Boom! But just in a moment another roar sounded. Another Ziying battleship was destroyed again. The terrible explosion boiled the sea and burned the void. On the great universe arc, Lin Sun was tall and straight. He looked indifferent and calm. The insignificant spiritual bow buzzed, and the scarlet bowstring was as red as blood. Bang! 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 Numerous spiritual arrows tore through the sky. They were soundless, shapeless, and colorless. They were as fast as lightning, and they emitted a shocking aura. Yi Lingtong was completely stunned and her mind was blank. In her sight, one Ziying battleship after another burst into pieces like paper and turned into monstrous flames, burning fiercely. All this happened so fast that those strongmen of Han family were involved in the explosion before they could escape from the battleship. They screamed and died. This place had simply transformed into purgatory, and it was filled with world-shocking scenes of destruction. All this seemed so unreal. That was Ziying battleship. How could an important weapon of the Empire become so weak and fragile now? Yi Lingtong couldn't figure it out and was completely shocked. Boom! The last Ziying battleship was also destroyed. It exploded into a horrible mushroom cloud and rose to the sky. The blazing flames raged and illuminated the blue sea. In just a few breaths, 10 Ziying battleships and a group of Han family practitioners on them were all destroyed. Lin Sun didn't move anymore. He stood there straight like a pine tree. His moon-white clothes and black hair fluttered in the wind. In the distance, there was a real sea of fire, burning fiercely and illuminating the world. It was like a purgatory of fire. The wreckage of the battleship and the bones of Han family practitioners were all annihilated in the sea of fire. Yi Lingtong was stunned. Looking at all this and the figure beside her, who stood with his hands behind his back, she felt an inexplicable throbbing in her heart. Chapter 654. In fact, the reason why Lin Sun could destroy a battleship with one arrow was not that his fighting capacity had reached an incredible level. It was because he was too familiar with the Ziying battleship. The new Ziying battleship was designed by Lin Sun himself, so he knew its structure like the palm of his hand. It was no exaggeration to say that no one in the world knew the Ziying battleship better than old Mo. Under such circumstances, every arrow he shot was aimed at the weakest part of the Ziying battleship. It would be strange if he couldn't achieve such a result. The war was raging and the blue sea was burning. Everything came to an end. Lin Sun put away the insignificant bow and floated away with Yi Lingtong, who was still in a state of shock. You mean Yi Qi has gone to the ancient desolation realm for cultivation? On the way, when Yi Lingtong asked about Yi Qi's whereabouts, Lin Sun couldn't help being a little surprised. Yes, Brother Qi was sent away by the old ancestor 3 months ago. Among the younger generation of Yi family, Brother Qi is the only one who has received such special treatment. All the hopes of our family are pinned on him. Yi Lingtong couldn't help but show a touch of admiration in her eyes. Yi Qi was recognized as the top talent of the younger generation of Yi family. He was famous in the East Sea with superb talent. But when Yi Lingtong compared Yi Qi with Lin Sun, she shook her head helplessly. They couldn't be compared. This guy destroyed 10 Ziying battleships of the Han family in an understatement. He was just a monster. Compared with him, Brother Xiaoqi was a little dim. It seems that many practitioners in Xiao Empire have realized the problem of the catastrophe of the Great Way. Lin Sun was thoughtful. Yi Qi was not the first one to go to the ancient desolation realm for cultivation. Before him, Bai Lingshi, Song Yi, and Yu Qizhe had been taken away by some representatives of ancient sects to go to the ancient desolation realm for cultivation at the 300th birthday party of the Empress. In addition, young Sword King Shai Yutong, young Master Shi Xuan of Keystone Business, Song Yunji of Song Family, Gu Yunting of Green Deer School, and other top talents of the younger generation of the Forbidden City had left in advance. This was the weather vane. Lin Sun didn't even need to guess that there would be more and more disciples sent to the ancient desolation territory for cultivation in the following days. After all, according to the rumors, a true calamity of the Grand Tao would erupt in this plane that was taken to be a lower dimension in less than 10 years. At that time, the Grand Tao would be severely incomplete. Not to mention cultivating, even the path to advance would probably be cut off. To cultivators, this was simply equivalent to killing all hope in their path to seek the Tao. Yi Qi's departure was one such example. After returning to the Forbidden City, I'll start to prepare for the trip to the ancient desolation realm. Lin Sun took a deep breath and made up his mind. After experiencing ups and downs in the depths of Soul Oblivion Sea, Lin Sun understood that he had to go to a broader world of cultivation if he wanted to continue to pursue his path of cultivation. In short, it would be difficult for Lin Sun to cultivate in the mortal world in the future. Young master, could you tell me your name before I leave? After 30 minutes, Yi Lingtong decided to leave near the coast of the East Sea. But before she left, her only request was to know Lin Sun's name. Lin Sun was stunned for a moment and then nodded in agreement. Goodbye. Lin Sun cupped his hands and then drove the vast universe arc to fly to the distant land. So his name is Lin Sun, Yi Lingtong murmured. She always felt the name was familiar, but she couldn't remember it. Yi family in the East Sea. Yi Lingtong came back with the news that she was chased by the Han family, which made the senior members of the Yi family furious. On the same day, the Yi family dispatched a powerful team to the depths of the East Sea to compete with the Han family for the spiritual vein mine. On the same day, in the assembly hall of the Yi family, Yi Lingtong said another news, which shocked the senior members of the Yi family. Han Yunchong, a great practitioner in the Tao Insight realm of the Han family, was killed by a young man with one palm? If Yi Lingtong hadn't assured them that the news was absolutely true, the big shots of the Yi family almost couldn't believe it. But soon, the shock was replaced by anger. What? Donka is dead? Aren't you together? Why are you still alive and Donka is dead? In the hall, Yi Nanlin's angry roar sounded like rolling thunder. He was Yi Donka's father, and the pain of losing his son made him completely unable to calm down. He fell into a rage, and his eyes were red with anger. Speak! What the hell is going on? If you dare to hide it, I'll be the first to punish you. Yi Nanlin stared at Yi Lingtong with a terrifying gaze, which scared the latter so much that her pretty face turned pale and she couldn't help but tremble. The other big shots present were also surprised and bewildered. Yes, Han Yunchong had been killed, so how could Yi Donka die under such circumstances? Yi Lingtong knew that she couldn't hide it, so she could only tell the truth. Suddenly, all the big shots frowned, and Yi Nanlin was furious to the extreme. Just because he refused my son's recruitment, that young man was so cruel and deliberately took revenge on him? He's going too far. Yi Lingtong summoned up her courage, gritted her teeth and said, "Third uncle, it's cousin Donka's fault. He didn't know his limits and repaid kindness with enmity. I tried to persuade him, but I was scolded and blamed by him instead. Don't you think he deserved it? Presumptuous! Who do you think you are to dare say that Donka didn't know his limits and repaid kindness with enmity? Little girl, your mouth is really vicious." Yi Nanlin slapped the table before him into pieces, and then he stood up like an infuriated wild beast as he stared murderously at Yi Lingtong. Yi Lingtong was terrified, and her entire body went cold as if she'd fallen into an icy pit. She felt extremely aggrieved and furious in her heart. Sure enough, like father like son, Yi Donka's nature and temper are simply exactly like this third uncle of hers. Even though that young man saved your life, but even though Donka died at the hands of the Han clan, it's related to that young man as well, so he can't die for nothing. Another great figure of the Yi clan spoke with a heavy voice. Exactly. My Yi clan has occupied the Eastern Sea for so many years, yet such a vile incident has never occurred. If news of this were to spread, then we'd probably become a joke of the world. In my opinion, we absolutely can't let the Han clan off just like that. Besides that, that young man must pay a price for this. Some other great figures also spoke out one after another. Seeing this, Yi Lingtong's heart sank, and she couldn't help saying, "Uncles, if it weren't for that young man's help, I wouldn't have been able to bring back the news of the Han clan fighting for the spiritual lode mine at the first possible moment. What you've done, isn't it?" She didn't finish her words, but the meaning was already very obvious. Wasn't it like repaying kindness with enmity? Immediately, the faces of the great figures darkened, and they were somewhat displeased. At this time, you, a little girl, still want to defend an outsider? Yi Nanlin roared, and his eyes became colder. Yi Lingtong pursed her lips and didn't speak, but her expression was very stubborn, which made many great figures frown even more. "Lingtong, do you know the name and origin of that young man?" a great figure asked gently. Immediately, everyone pricked up their ears. Yi Lingtong hesitated for a while, and finally said in a low voice, "I only know that his name is Lin Sun. By the way, before leaving, he asked me to send his regards to the old ancestor." Lin Sun? He asked Yi Lingtong, a little girl, to send his regards to the old ancestor? Everyone was stunned. This guy was really arrogant. Yi Dongke died because of him, but he still dared to be so fearless. Did he really think that Yi family dared not do anything to him? Especially Yi Nanlin, who was so angry that blue veins bulged on his forehead and his teeth almost broke. How dare he humiliate my Yi family like this? If I don't kill him, I can't relieve the hatred in my heart. Yi Lingtong's hands and feet were cold, and a touch of bitterness flashed in her eyes. She had made it so clear, but the reaction of the great figures of Yi family was disappointing. Wait, did you say that the young man is called Lin Sun? Suddenly, a great figure said, seeming to think of something, and his face was a little surprised. Who is Lin Sun? Could he be the famous young grandmaster of spiritual tattoos in the Forbidden City? In an instant, the faces of the great figures in the hall also changed, and they more or less remembered some rumors about the name Lin Sun. Lin Sun, a famous young talent in the Forbidden City, was like the sun at noon. There were too many rumors about him. When he was certified as a spiritual tattooist, he caused the vision of 9 dragons roar, which shocked the Forbidden City. In the smiles of beauties, he beat the descendants of the 2 top aristocratic families, Hua and Song. In the 300th birthday party of the Empress, he forced Ling Tianho and Zhao Jingyin to kneel in public. At the age of 16, he became the only teacher in the spiritual tattoo department of Green Deer School. In less than half a month, he refined a set of spiritual tattoo armor, Death of Shattering, which shocked the world. Once, in a word, this young man was full of mysterious and legendary colors. Since his rise in the Forbidden City, his brilliance almost overshadowed the limelight of all the talents of the young generation. Some people criticized him for his violent temperament and bad behavior, while others praised him as a young talent who was proud of the world. However, no one expected that such a young man would be involved in the death of Yi Dongke. All of a sudden, the atmosphere in the hall became much quieter. If this Lin Sun was really the young man who was like the sun at noon in the Forbidden City, it would be difficult to deal with him. Yi Lingtong was also stunned at the moment. She keenly noticed that the name Lin Sun seemed to have magic power, which changed the attitude of the big shots in the hall. It turned out that he was more complicated than she had imagined. Yi Lingtong didn't know Lin Sun. She had been cultivating in the East Sea and had never paid attention to the news in the Forbidden City. Otherwise, she would immediately understand the reason why the big shots in the hall changed their expressions. Whether he is the young spiritual tattooist or not, since he dares to retaliate against Dongke, he must pay the price. Yi Nanlin, whose expression was uncertain, let out a roar at this moment. However, the response to his roar was some hesitation and flickering eyes. All the people in the hall became much more silent. Although the Yi family could dominate the East Sea, in the Forbidden City, it could barely be classified as a middle-level aristocratic family. It was said that Lin Sun had offended the 5 top aristocratic families, Hua, Song, Zhua, Qi, and Qin. In the whole empire, there were only 7 top aristocratic families, but this guy was so ferocious that he offended 5 of them at once. However, he was still alive and kicking, and had not met with any misfortune. This was too shocking. Under such circumstances, who would have the courage to provoke such a young man? What? Are you all afraid of him? He is just a young man. How could he frighten you like this? Yi Nanlin became angrier. Bastard! Your son repaid kindness with enmity and was killed by the Han family. Now you want to find trouble with your benefactor. Are you also an idiot? Suddenly, a majestic voice came from outside the hall, which made all the people in the hall tremble. They stood up and bowed. Yi Nanlin's expression changed, and he was so shocked that his whole body became stiff. There was no one outside the hall, but all the senior leaders of the Yi family knew that the voice came from the old ancestor of the Yi family. There was only one old ancestor of the Yi family, Yi Qintian. Even Blood King Ning Bugue, Fortune Godshire from Keystone Shop, and Gong Bupo, the old ancestor of the Gong family, praised the young man. How could you say that he is an unpardonable villain? Yi Qingtian's voice sounded again with a kind of questioning, which shocked Yi Nanlin and made his face more and more embarrassed. Our Xiaoqi has been taken care of by Lin Sun many times. Even I have to show some respect to a young grandmaster of spiritual tattoos, who can refine a suit of spiritual tattoos. Under such circumstances you say you want to take revenge. How dare you? These words were like a thunderbolt. Yi Nanlin couldn't hold it anymore. He knelt down on the ground and said bitterly, "Old ancestor, I know I was wrong. From today on, you will resign from all your posts in the family and go to the forbidden area to reflect on your mistakes." Yi Qingtian's light words made Yi Nanlin's face turn pale, as if he had lost his parents. He really couldn't understand why the old ancestor would be so angry because of a young man. The other big shots kept silent out of fear and secretly felt lucky that they had seen the opportunity quickly and didn't say anything excessive. "Little girl, come to the ancestral shrine. I have something to ask you," Yi Qingtian called out to Yi Lingtong. His voice was warm and amiable like a spring breeze, causing everyone to be stunned. Immediately, the senior leaders of the Yi family showed complicated expressions. How could they not know that Yi Lingtong had been noticed by the old ancestor because of her relationship with Lin Sun? This time, the little girl got a blessing in disguise. Yi Lingtong stood there in a daze for a moment before suddenly regaining her wits. She hastily turned around and hurriedly left. But she was still in a trance. Who on earth was Lin Sun? Why did the old ancestor come out in person? It was incredible! As soon as Yi Lingtong saw Yi Qingtian, she was shocked by the old ancestor's first question. Not long ago, there was news from the Forbidden City that Lin Sun had been killed in the depths of the Soul Oblivion Sea a few months ago. Are you sure you saw him? Could it be that he didn't die but came back alive? Chapter 655. Dead? Yi Lingtong was stunned. Could it be that the Lin Sun she saw was not the same Lin Sun mentioned by the old ancestor? However, after she described Lin Sun's appearance, Yi Qingtian's reply made her realize that the two Lin Sun were indeed the same person. I didn't expect that he would come back alive from the depths of Soul Oblivion Sea. Although Yi Qingtian was a life-and-death realm king, he couldn't help feeling shocked when he confirmed that Lin Sun was still alive. According to the information he received, Lin Sun was hunted down in the depths of Soul Oblivion Sea several months ago by a group of life-and-death realm old monsters. Under such circumstances, almost no one believed that Lin Sun could come back alive. When Yi Qingtian heard the news, he also sighed with regret. It could be said that Lin Sun was the most outstanding and dazzling figure among the young generation of the Empire. The miracles and glorious deeds that had happened to him were innumerable. If such a young talent died, it would be a heavy loss for the whole Empire. But who could imagine that Lin Sun, who was rumored to be dead, came back alive? It was too shocking. Hunted by a group of life-and-death realm kings. Even if Yi Qingtian were Lin Sun, he would also feel numb. The most incredible thing was that Lin Sun could come back from the depths of Soul Oblivion Sea alone, which was quite incredible in itself. After all, it was known that a practitioner who could cross the Soul Oblivion Sea had to be at least a life-and-death realm king. Once other practitioners broke into the Soul Oblivion Sea, they would definitely die. But Lin Sun survived unscathed. A group of life-and-death realm kings failed to kill him. Even the perilous Soul Oblivion Sea could not stop him from returning to Xiao Empire. Under such circumstances, how could Yi Qingtian not be shocked? It was true that he was a life-and-death realm king, and ordinary things couldn't affect him at all. But what happened to Lin Sun was so incredible that even Yi Qingtian couldn't help but be shocked. The atmosphere was a bit silent. Yi Lingtong keenly sensed that even the old ancestor seemed to be shocked after confirming Lin Sun's identity. This made her even more curious. Who on earth was Lin Sun? He looked like a young man with great battle strength, but why did every big shot in the Yi clan change their expressions when his name was mentioned? Yi Lingtong secretly decided that she must collect information about Lin Sun in the future. She wanted to know who this mysterious young man was. It has been half a year since he disappeared. When his death was confirmed, there were a lot of waves in the Forbidden City, but now Yi Qingtian's eyes were deep and there was a strange expression between his eyebrows. Everything has changed. When he returns to the Forbidden City, he is bound to set off a great storm. A whoosh! The vast universe arc shimmered, flying through the skies at full speed. It was like a flickering bolt of lightning, gently flashing before vanishing into the ends of the horizon. Finally returning to Xiao Empire made Lin Sun feel relaxed and happy like a tired bird returning to its nest. With his current cultivation base, coupled with the vast universe arc, even a life and death king wouldn't be able to stop him. Similarly, no one under the life and death king could threaten Lin Sun as long as he didn't confront them head-on. Therefore, on the way back to the Forbidden City, Lin Sun didn't disguise himself at all and didn't worry about any accident. I've been away for half a year. I don't know how Xie Ji, Grandad Zhong, Young Ku, Mr. Vulture and Zhu Laosan are doing now. On the way back, Lin Sun's thoughts flew and he thought of many relatives and friends. He couldn't help but be in a trance. What had happened to Heart-Cleansing Peak in half a year? Suddenly, a wave of fighting spread from a distance, awakening Lin Sun from his contemplation. It was a mountain range that rose and fell one after another. It was deserted and there were no cities nearby. It seemed to be very ancient and primitive. At this moment, a battle was breaking out there. A caravan of about 30 or 40 people was besieged by countless demonic beasts in a valley. They were fighting fiercely. When did so many demonic beasts appear in Xiao Empire? Lin Sun was a little surprised and slowed down. The so-called demonic beasts were aliens who had opened their spiritual wisdom and knew how to cultivate. Or, they could be generally called demonic cultivators. Such demonic beasts were far more powerful than ordinary fierce beasts. Some king-level demonic beasts could even be comparable to the great practitioners of human beings. They were omnipotent. However, as far as Lin Sun knew, many years ago, there were only some ordinary fierce beasts in Xiao Empire. Demonic beasts were rarely seen. Yet now, the demon beasts in the gorge were densely packed like tidewater. There were bright and golden flying beasts, and there were walking beasts that dashed like lightning. They were of all shapes and sizes, and their auras were extremely ferocious. The roars of the beasts were like the howls of ghosts and the howls of wolves, resounding in this world. It was frightening. It was too abnormal. Is it possible that with the coming of the catastrophe of the Tao, some kind of change has gradually taken place in this world? Lin Sun frowned. Soon, he was surprised to find that the caravan besieged by countless demonic beasts was hanging the flag of Keystone business. Suddenly Lin Sun stopped. Without hesitation, he put away the vast universe arc, flashed down the void and approached the valley. Miss Wansu, I'm afraid we will be wiped out this time, Wang Lin said bitterly and looked desperate. He was a treasure appraiser, not good at fighting. But he clearly saw that the guards who followed them were falling down one by one. Those demonic beasts were horrible and bloodthirsty. There were too many of them, and they surrounded the valley. There was no doubt that if this bad situation continued, they would all die in the mouth of the demonic beast. Boom! As soon as Wang Lin's voice fell, a bloody light rushed over and brushed past Wang Lin's body. It blasted a huge hole in the ground nearby and the soil splashed. Wang Lin was so shocked that his face turned pale and he trembled all over. If he was hit by this blow, wouldn't he die like this? Damn it! During this period of time, large-scale demon beast forces have started to emerge in the various large areas of the empire, and all of them possess strengths comparable to human cultivators. They've wreaked havoc in the wilderness and occupied the mountains as kings, and they kill anyone they see, causing countless bloody tragedies. But I never imagined that we would encounter them this time. On the side, Mu Wansu clenched her teeth. She wore a black dress and her face was as beautiful as before, like a charming and sexy black rose. But at this moment, her face was livid. No matter how calm and strong she was, she couldn't help but feel powerless in the face of such a scene. Could it be that the rumor is true? A great change is about to occur in this world? Mu Wansu felt a chill run down her spine. Natural disasters and massacres were the most terrifying disasters since ancient times. Especially for cultivators, if a natural disaster descended, it would produce an unimaginable scene of destruction. A shrill and miserable cry resounded from afar, causing Mu Wansu to be jolted awake, and then her beautiful face turned ghastly pale. The elite guards who came with her were all killed at this moment. They were lying in pools of blood, and their corpses were torn apart and trampled by the demonic beasts. It was a horrible sight. Roar! The demonic beasts rushed over and roared. Their eyes were icy cold, bloodthirsty, and ferocious. It was terrifying. This made Mu Wansu and Wang Lin completely despair. In this desolate wilderness, how could they have a chance of survival when facing this demonic beast army that was like a tide? Human, this mountain is occupied by I, the Crimson Eagle King. If you don't want to die, then submit to this king now. Suddenly, a crimson eagle that was 30 zhang long and seemed to be made of lava with wings that burned with a fiery glow swooped down. It lightly flapped its wings and flames poured down. The mountain at the side of the valley was instantly incinerated. It was extremely terrifying. The demonic beasts that were like a tide were trembling at this moment. They prostrated on the ground as if they were respectfully welcoming the arrival of a king. This made the Crimson Eagle King's presence even more terrifying. Submit. Mu Wansu was surprised. That's right. This king has just awakened from his slumber and needs to understand this world again. You are the people that this king has chosen. The Crimson Eagle King's voice was indifferent and carried an unquestionable tone. You want me, a human, to submit to a feathered beast like you? Mu Wansu's heart turned cold as if she had fallen into an ice cave. She gritted her teeth and said, "Fine, I'll die if I die. But before I die, I'll drag these beasts down with me." Seeing that Mu Wansu was going to risk her life, Wang Lin's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He couldn't help but let out a sorrowful cry, "Lady Wansu, you're courting death." The Crimson Eagle King flew up and flapped his wings, creating flames that were thousands of zhang tall. The flames burned and evaporated as if they could refine everything. It was extraordinary, and its intelligence and strength were no different from human cultivators. At this moment, Wang Lin was in complete despair. The Crimson Eagle King was so terrifying. How could Lady Wansu have a chance to survive? Swish! A wisp of silver saber light suddenly appeared, and it was incomparably resplendent as it shot over with extreme speed. What is that? Wang Lin was startled. The Crimson Eagle King was also shocked. He gave up on Mu Wansu and quickly changed his direction to avoid this attack. But the blade light was too swift and unbelievably fast. It was like an inverted galaxy pouring down on the mortal world. With a puff, the Crimson Eagle King couldn't avoid it. A bloody crack appeared on its wings that seemed to be made of lava, and blood splashed down. My God! Did a peerless great cultivator lend a hand? Wang Lin exclaimed in shock, and almost didn't dare believe his eyes. Coming back from death's door caused the despair and sorrow in his heart to be completely swept away, and he was exceedingly excited. On the other hand, Mu Wansu was shocked as well. She was originally dispirited, and wanted to stake everything on a single throw, yet never had she imagined that a blade light that seemed to have flown over from beyond the heavens would change everything. How formidable was the Crimson Eagle King! Yet he was actually unable to avoid it. This was simply too unbelievable, like a miracle, and it caused everyone to be excited. Who exactly was it that lent a hand at this moment? As if he'd heard the thoughts in Mu Wansu's heart, at practically the exact same moment, a handsome figure had already floated down and entered her field of vision. Chapter 656. Lin Sun. Mu Wansu's pupils suddenly shrank, and she almost couldn't believe her eyes. Was he still alive? Didn't they say that he had met a mishap in the depths of the Soul Oblivion Sea? Mu Wansu almost thought she was hallucinating, but her intuition told her that the young man must be Lin Sun. Compared with before, Lin Sun's temperament had changed greatly, with an unspeakable transcendent spirit, but his appearance had hardly changed. He was really alive. Besides feeling shocked, a wisp of wild joy couldn't help but surge out from Mu Wansu's heart. At this moment of greatest despair and helplessness, Lin Sun had simply arrived like an otherworldly immortal, and he'd injured the extremely terrifying Crimson Eagle King with a single strike. Who wouldn't be excited at this moment? This can't be true. This guy is still alive? Wang Lin on the other side was also stunned, as if he had seen a ghost. Is there anything wrong with me being alive? Lin Sun was stunned. As soon as he arrived, he saw such a strange scene, which was very strange. But before he could ask clearly, the opposite Red Eagle King had already said in a gloomy voice, "A young man has stepped into the Tao Insight realm and can hurt me. It really surprises me." As he spoke, he spread his wings, and the divine flame wrapped around his body, as if he was born in the glow of fire. His breath was terrible. Be careful. This guy is a monster awakened from silence. His strength is so horrible that ordinary practitioners can't compete with him. Mu Wansu's face changed, and she couldn't help reminding him. It's just a feathered beast. Don't be nervous, Sister Wansu. Lin Sun smiled very easily, and his handsome face was full of warmth. Mu Wansu seemed to return to the years in Donglin Town. At that time, Lin Sun was just a young man in the martial realm, and he was in a difficult situation. But now, he had already been famous in the Forbidden City, like a peerless talent, so she had to look up and marvel at him. Only a few years had passed. The poor and weak young man had already risen in the empire. Now, even in the face of a ferocious monster like the Red Eagle King, he was still at ease and fearless. Feathered beast, the Scarlet Eagle King's eyes were blazing with flames. It was obvious that he was angered by this humiliating way of addressing him. Ever since he started cultivating, he had never met such an arrogant youth. Little fellow, on account of how difficult it was for you to cultivate, if you surrender now, this king may give you a chance to live. Otherwise, today, this king will let you understand what it means to live a life worse than death. The Scarlet Eagle King's voice was cold as he threatened. The demonic beasts nearby also roared, eager to intimidate Lin Sun. I've killed countless people like you. How dare you call yourself a king? Lin Sun laughed. This Red Eagle King was indeed very powerful. He possessed power that was comparable to a peak Grotto Heaven Realm cultivator. He was definitely a top-notch existence among the demonic cultivators, but in Lin Sun's eyes this guy was nothing. He was far inferior to Nyo Tunshin of the Herculean Bull Demon clan. The moment these words were said, the Scarlet Eagle King became even angrier. You are seeking your own death. Boom. He spread his wings and 1,000 feet of flames rose. It was like a burning cloud that covered the entire area. It was bright and dazzling, burning the mountains nearby and turning them into ashes. Even some of the demonic beasts nearby couldn't dodge in time and were incinerated. From this, one could see how cruel this Red Eagle King was. He didn't even care about the lives of his subordinate. He was definitely a cold and bloodthirsty character. Noisy. Lin Sun didn't waste any more words. His body glowed, and he rushed up quickly like an unsheathed sharp blade. Swoosh. He used the Ice Dragon step. His figure was like a dream, dazzling and frightening. So powerful. Mu Wansu and Wang Lin were both shocked. How long had it been since they last met? Lin Sun became stronger again. He actually stepped into the grotto heaven realm and became a true great cultivator. This was simply unbelievable. One had to know that half a year ago, Lin Sun was still in the sea of spirit realm. But now, he could already stand shoulder to shoulder with the great cultivators of the empire. Boom! The Red Eagle King showed his might. He was huge and his body seemed to be burning. He was red like the sunset. But at this moment, every single one of his bright red feathers were standing up, because he sensed an extremely dangerous aura. He stretched out his incomparably sharp claws, wrapped in thousands of fire waves, and pounced on Lin Sun in the void. However, a horrifying scene appeared. Lin Sun only punched and smashed the opponent's claw in an instant. Puff! Blood splattered. The Red Eagle King retreated violently because of the pain. The red flame wings all over his body stood up. He was shocked and angry at the same time, and his heart was filled with coldness. Just one strike had injured his claws and almost crippled him. This made him fully aware that the young man in front of him was actually an extremely powerful character, and not an ordinary person. Lin Sun's figure was like a dream. He was very straightforward and neat. After he made a move, he didn't hesitate and decisively chased after the Red Eagle King. His fist strength was simple and heavy. It carried a vast and majestic atmosphere, and even the void collapsed from the pressure. The Red Eagle King roared. He was furious. Since he awakened, he thought he could look down on everyone. Who would have thought that a mere human young man would make him suffer a setback? Boom! He was like a burning sun. Red rays of light flowed and sprinkled down thousands of fire-light rain towards Lin Sun. Whoosh! However, Lin Sun's speed was too fast. In a flash, he avoided the attack and came to the side of the Red Eagle King. He punched out. With a bang like a muffled thunder, under the shocked gazes of Mu Wansu and Wang Lin, the insufferably fierce Red Eagle King was directly smashed into the void by Lin Sun's punch. A large pit was formed on the ground. His feathers fell and he screamed shrilly. Looking at Lin Sun again, he was calm and indifferent from beginning to end. His moon-white clothes fluttered, and he was aloof like an immortal. All the demonic beasts nearby trembled all over. Like frightened kittens, they crawled on the ground and shivered. They didn't dare to roar anymore. They felt an indescribable fear from Lin Sun. It made their hearts tremble, and they were completely intimidated. Even the Crimson Eagle King was easily suppressed, much less them? Whoosh! Lin Sun's figure flickered and he leaped down. His fist strength carried a faint cyan glow. Like a falling comet, he blasted towards the Red Eagle King. A scene beyond everyone's expectation happened. The Red Eagle King suddenly screamed, "Child, please spare my life. I'm willing to surrender and follow you to serve you." Whoosh! Lin Sun's fist stopped 3 inches away from the Red Eagle King's head. Because the fist strength was too terrifying, the void was rubbed with a shrill whistling sound. This made the Red Eagle King break out in a cold sweat. His soul almost left his body. The fear in his heart grew. This young man was too terrifying. He was only in his teens. How could his fighting power be so great? Was he a core disciple of some ancient orthodoxy? Thinking of this, the Red Eagle King became more and more submissive. He folded his wings and his fierce aura disappeared. He crawled on the ground, kowtowed and said in a trembling voice, "God cherishes all living things. Please be merciful and spare my life." All the demonic beasts nearby looked at each other in dismay. Their eyeballs almost fell out. That was their king. But now, he was crawling at the feet of a human youth and begging for mercy. This change happened so fast that they were a little confused. Mu Wansu and Wang Lin were already dumbfounded. Before, the Red Eagle King didn't even make a move. He only relied on his subordinates to defeat them. But now, such a beast king overlord was crawling at the feet of Lin Sun and begging for mercy. All this seemed too unreal. And this also made them more aware of Lin Sun's strength. They hadn't seen him for only half a year, but his strength was already so terrifying. What happened to him? A whoosh. After a while, the vast universe arc started, carrying Lin Sun, Mu Wansu and Wang Lin to the Forbidden City. The Red Eagle King was also there. He shrank his body and turned into a 2-foot-high red eagle, standing at the feet of Lin Sun like a loyal servant. Lin Sun did spare his life and completely subdued him, keeping him by his side. The Red Eagle King's strength was undoubtedly powerful. At least in the Tao Insight realm, he was stronger than the ordinary saints in the depths of the Sea of Souls. In Xiao Empire, compared with the great practitioners of Tao Insight realm, the Red Eagle King was equal to the top. He was only one step away from entering the reincarnation developing realm. The Red Eagle King belonged to the ancient bloodline of the Fire Spirit Blood Eagle. He was born with the Tao of Fire. He was also a kind of top existence among the demonic cultivators, which was not comparable to ordinary demonic birds. Lin Sun was naturally happy to see the surrender of such a great demonic cultivator at the peak. He had already thought about letting the Red Eagle King act as the guardian of heart-cleansing peak in the future. In this way, even if he left for the ancient Desolation territory, he didn't have to worry too much about his relatives and friends. Lin Sun even thought about whether to catch more powerful demonic beasts before going to the ancient Desolation territory to serve as the guardian of heart-cleansing peak. Lin Sun, it is said that you have been in trouble? What happened to you in the depths of the Soul Oblivion Sea? After hesitating for a long time, Mu Wansu couldn't help asking. Trouble? Who said that? Lin Sun was stunned. Don't you know? As early as a few months ago, it was spread in the Forbidden City that you died in the depths of the Soul Oblivion Sea and couldn't come back. Well, you just came back. How could you know this news? Mu Wansu's words made Lin Sun frown. A cold light flashed in his black eyes. Who on earth spread such vicious news? Unfortunately, Mu Wansu didn't know who spread the news. She just heard it from others. Holy Land of Spirit Treasure. After a little thought, Lin Sun determined the target. It must be Xiao Ran, Su Xingfeng and other guys who spread such false news with bad intentions. Only they knew what he had experienced in the depths of the Soul Oblivion Sea. Do you want to discredit and attack me by this means? It seems that you are really at your wits' end. Lin Sun sneered in his heart. At that time, he appeared as Lin Xian, but as long as someone checked his real identity, he could not hide it from the descendants of Holy Land of Spirit Treasure at all. But what puzzled Lin Sun was why they did this. What was their purpose? Was it just to discredit and disgust him? It couldn't be that simple. Thinking of this, Lin Sun suddenly wanted to return to the Forbidden City as soon as possible. Chapter 657. Sister Wansu, do you know what happened to Lin family of Heart Cleansing Peak in the past 6 months? Lin Sun finally couldn't help asking. He had a bad feeling about this. A few months ago there were rumors of his death in the Forbidden City. In this case, Lin family of Heart Cleansing Peak would suffer the greatest impact and blow. After all, strictly speaking, Lin Sun was like the backbone of Heart Cleansing Peak now. If Vulture, Young Ku and Zhu Laosan knew that he was dead, how could they still contribute to Heart Cleansing Peak? Similarly, how would Beiheng Lin, who had settled in Heart Cleansing Peak now, react in this case? This was just an internal affair of Heart Cleansing Peak. How could the 3 collateral forces of Westbrook, Floating Cloud and Flying Peak, as well as the superior forces of Zhou family and Qin family be indifferent? Mu Wansu's face changed slightly. She wanted to say something but stopped on second thought. Just say it. I can almost predict it. Lin Sun's bad feeling became stronger. His black eyes were as deep as an abyss, and a kind of real killing intent overflowed. Red Eagle King beside him shivered all over. He felt more fear and awe in his heart. As a peak existence among demonic cultivators, Red Eagle King could keenly perceive that Lin Sun's looming killing intent was too terrible. It was a kind of killing intent that could only be tempered by killing for a long time and countless times. He couldn't imagine that such a teenager, who was only in his teens, was like a killing god who had killed people and walked out of mountains of corpses and seas of blood. Don't worry. Lin family of Heart-Cleansing Peak is in a precarious situation at present, but it can still persist for the time being. Mu Wansu took a deep breath and said, "What's more, you are back now. I'm sure you can get out of danger." Lin soon shook his head. "Sister Wansu, you don't have to comfort me." Mu Wansu hesitated for a moment and finally sighed. "She told the truth. When you were still in the Forbidden City, the three collateral forces of Westbrook, Floating Cloud and Flying Peak, as well as the superior forces of Zhou family, Qin family and Qi family, would never dare to act recklessly. But the problem is that you have disappeared for half a year. A few months ago, it was said that you had died in the Forbidden City, so..." He didn't finish his sentence, but the meaning behind it was clear. Half a year might seem short, but for the major forces in the Forbidden City, Lin Sun's disappearance would undoubtedly attract all kinds of attention. The reason was very simple. In the Forbidden City, Lin Sun was a famous young grandmaster of spiritual tattoos, the head of Heart-Cleansing Peak of Lin family, and the most outstanding talent among the younger generation. Such a dazzling, demon-like heaven's favorite had suddenly disappeared for half a year, and there were rumors that he had died in the Soul Oblivion Sea. Under such circumstances, it would definitely arouse suspicions and reactions from all sides. Especially those enemies, they would definitely become restless because of this. This was the human heart. A cold curve appeared at the corner of Lin Sun's mouth, and his black eyes became deeper. He knew that as long as he was alive, no one in the Forbidden City dared to hurt Lin family of Heart-Cleansing Peak. Even those superior forces didn't dare to offend a young grandmaster of spiritual tattoos who could refine a suit of spiritual tattoos. What was more, the royal family would never allow this to happen, because the mysterious big shot in the royal family had already promised to give Lin Sun a kind of tacit support. In the same way, the three collateral forces of Westbrook, Floating Cloud and Flying Peak could only swallow their anger. But everything would change if Lin Sun died. This was the reason why people were cold when they were gone. Why did the old monsters in the high-class clans rarely go out? One reason was that they needed to practice in seclusion, but more importantly, these old monsters could deter people and play the role of stabilizing the sea. This was the so-called family couldn't be without a master, and a country couldn't be without a monarch. Mu Wansu didn't say anything in detail, but Lin Sun also understood that the current situation of Lin family of Heart-Cleansing Peak was absolutely not optimistic. Now that I think about it, it's about time to deal with the Lin family's hidden danger. Lin Sun stood on the deck with his clothes fluttering in the wind. His face was expressionless, and there was no joy or sorrow in his black eyes. Mu Wansu next to him felt suffocated for no reason. Her chest was stuffy, and there was an invisible pressure on her. This made her heart tremble. She realized that the young man who disappeared in the Forbidden City for half a year was finally angry. The Forbidden City, it was destined to cause an unpredictable storm. Half a day later, in front of the east gate of the Forbidden City, a treasure ship descended from the sky. Lin Sun, dressed in moon-white clothes, looked up at the towering ancient city gate that he hadn't seen for half a year and couldn't help taking a deep breath. After half a year, Lin Sun was back again. Lin Sun withdrew his gaze, put his hands behind his back, and walked into the Forbidden City. Red Eagle King stood on his shoulder, looking around with his fiery eyes. A guard commander who guarded the city gate was sitting lazily on the side of the gate and dozing off. When he inadvertently glanced at Lin Sun's back, he suddenly froze. "Hey, the young man just now seems to be familiar. Wait, isn't he Lin Sun who was rumored to have died in the Soul Oblivion Sea a few months ago?" The leader of the guards immediately stood up with a look of horror on his face. Half a year ago, the master of Heart-Cleansing Peak, the young grandmaster of spiritual tattoos, was so dazzling that he repeatedly created legends, caused a sensation in the Forbidden City, and became famous all over the world. How could the guard commander not recognize this young talent? He is still alive? The guard commander was dumbfounded, as if he had seen a ghost. Some of the nearby guards were stunned. Who was it that could cause the commander to have such a shocked expression? Lin Sun. It must be him. He once came to the Forbidden City with a group of villagers. I even talked to him personally. There's no mistake. The guard commander murmured, and there was a storm in his heart. As a local bully in the Forbidden City, he was too clear about what had happened in the past 6 months. A few months ago, the news of Lin Sun's death spread in the Forbidden City, which caused a sensation for a while. At that time, the guard commander sighed with emotion. At first, many people in the Forbidden City didn't believe it. But as time went by, more and more news and rumors came out, but Lin Sun never showed up. Many people realized that there was something wrong with the situation. Until now, almost no one thought that Lin Sun could come back alive. Lin Sun was dead. So, naturally, Lin family of Heart Cleansing Peak began to be in trouble. The original rising momentum also encountered unprecedented setbacks, and its momentum plummeted. Since Lin Sun took over Heart Cleansing Peak, Lin family, which had been declining for a long time, once again entered the vision of the Forbidden City, and its rising momentum was rising steadily, attracting many people's attention. All this was because of Lin Sun, the master of Heart Cleansing Peak and a legendary young spiritual tattooist, who was well known throughout the city. Everyone believed that as long as Lin Sun was alive, Lin family would restore its former glory and return to the ranks of the top aristocratic families. But when the news of Lin Sun's death was confirmed, all this changed. First of all, the 3 collateral forces of Westbrook, Floating Cloud and Flying Peak, began to take action. They clamored to settle in Heart Cleansing Peak and take over the power of Lin family. With the support of Zhou family and Qin family, they seemed to be fearless and arrogant. Some forces who used to have a good relationship with Heart Cleansing Peak also chose to stand aside and cut off their dealings with Lin family. There were even some people who thought that the lineal descendants of Lin family were destined to be completely eliminated and Heart Cleansing Peak would usher in a new change. In the past 6 months, the guard commander witnessed almost all the changes that Lin family had encountered. Naturally, he sighed with emotion in his heart. In the process of its rise, Lin family had offended many forces, such as Hua family, Song family, Qi family, Qin family, Zhou family and other superior aristocratic families. There were also Chu family, one of the 3 major spiritual tattooist families, and even the imperial royal family, who had been offended by Lin Sun more than once. Without Lin Sun, Lin family of Heart Cleansing Peak was immediately targeted by many major forces and was pushed aside and suppressed. But the guard commander never expected that after half a year, Lin Sun, the young talent who had been regarded as dead, came back. This time, there will be a great turmoil in the Forbidden City. The guard commander murmured. At this time, Lin Sun had come to Heart Cleansing Peak. He silently opened the mountain protecting formation and floated to the top of the mountain. However, when he was halfway there, he heard a noise coming from the conference hall on the top of the mountain, which made him narrow his eyes. What time is it now? Are you, Lin Zhong, going to watch the Qin family decline like this? Now that Lin Sun has been proved dead, it's time to select a new heir to take over the whole Heart Cleansing Peak. Yes, the clansmen of Northlight Lin dare not go out these days. Why? The reason is that Lin Sun has offended too many forces. Now we are like rats in the street. Everyone wants to beat us. We can't live a good life. A group of dragons has no leader. There are internal and external troubles. If we had known this earlier, we shouldn't have settled in Heart Cleansing Peak. Now that Lin Sun is dead, we also suffer. We are hostile and suppressed everywhere. How can we keep a foothold in the Forbidden City in the future? Lin Zhong, as an old man of Lin family, you are in charge of the death of Shattering. As long as you agree to let Northlight Lin take charge of Heart Cleansing Peak, we may be able to change the current predicament. Otherwise, I'm afraid that Heart Cleansing Peak will no longer be safe. In the conference hall, a group of high-level figures of Northlight Lin were sitting there, scolding, threatening, or angrily pointing the spearhead at Lin Zhong. Lin Huiyuan, the leader of Northlight Lin, was also among them. But he was expressionless at the moment and his attitude was very ambiguous. Everyone, before Miss Xia Ji practiced in seclusion, she had already said that the young master was still alive. Why do you still force her? Lin Zhong's face was gloomy with an unspeakable sullen anger. What's more, what the young master has done in recent years is for our Lin family. When the young master was alive, which of you didn't get benefits from Heart Cleansing Peak? Now the young master has just been missing for a while. You can't sit still and want to seize the power of Heart Cleansing Peak. Aren't you too impatient? Chapter 658. Lin Zhong's words were sonorous, passionate, and questioning. Many big shots of Northlight Lin's face became unnatural. Before Lin Sun's death, they all got a lot of benefits from Heart Cleansing Peak. Even in the Forbidden City, as long as they mentioned that they were the clansmen of Heart Cleansing Peak, they would be respected. But now Lin Sun was dead. Everything had changed. Heart Cleansing Peak was besieged on all sides. It was targeted by many forces and almost collapsed. At this time, how could these high-level members of Northlight Lin sit still? What a joke! Without the support of Northlight Lin, how could Lin Sun support the whole Heart Cleansing Peak alone? Remember, we don't owe Lin Sun anything. Some people were disdainful. Don't talk nonsense. Now it's necessary to select a new ruler on Heart Cleansing Peak. Whether you are willing or not, you must give a clear answer today. Some people were aggressive and tried to force Lin Zhong to abdicate. Lin Zhong, you are an old man of Lin family. You have always been loyal and we admire you. But now Lin Sun is dead and our family is facing such a great disaster. If we don't make changes, I'm afraid that Heart Cleansing Peak will be lost in our hands. I hope you can think twice about it. Some people tried to persuade Lin Zhong. As I said, young master is still alive. There's no need to talk about it anymore. Lin Zhong's words were firm and he was unmoved. Seeing this, someone was so angry that he couldn't help but scold. You old thing, you are so stubborn. Do you still expect that boy to come back? How long has it been? He must have died in the depths of Soul Oblivion Sea. He was chased by a group of Life-Death Realm Kings. He is just a Sea Spirit Realm practitioner. If he can come back alive, I will kill myself. You! Lin Zhong trembled with anger. He had always been good-tempered, but this time, he was really enraged. His face was livid and ugly. Everyone, you've gone too far. Young Ku, who had been sitting on one side of the hall, raised her eyebrows. She couldn't help saying coldly, "You are just an outsider. How can you intervene in the internal affairs of our Lin family? Please behave yourself and shut up." An elder of Northlight Lin scolded. His name was Lin Huitong, the younger brother of Lin Huiyuan. That's right, the internal affairs of my Lin family are not something you can meddle in. Other big shots of Northlight Lin also scolded young Ku. Young Ku's eyes turned cold. She was invited by Lin Sun to help Heart Cleansing Peak. She was not a servant. Now she was excluded and blamed, which made her angry. At this time, Vulture persuaded young Ku and sighed. Before Lin Sun left, he handed over the power of Heart Cleansing Peak to me. So, I have to live up to his trust. I advise you to leave a way out for everything and don't be too ruthless. Before he could finish, he was rudely interrupted. You're just an old cripple whose cultivation has been crippled, yet you dare to lecture us shamelessly? Did he really think that he was the master of Heart Cleansing Peak? Remember, this is the territory of my Lin family, not a place where an outsider like you can behave atrociously. These words were not only impolite, but they also carried an undisguised humiliation and blow. When Lin Sun was here, they might be in awe of Vulture. But now, who would pay attention to a cripple? Clang! Young Ku was completely angry. She pulled out her long saber and her clear eyes were full of killing intent. What? You, a little girl, want to fight in the territory of Lin family? Those clansmen of Northlight, Lin sneered. They were not afraid of her. They had long wanted to get rid of all these outsiders. The reason was very simple. Before Lin Sun left, he handed over all the power to Vulture, young Ku and others, which made them very unhappy. Now that they were sure that Lin Sun was dead, they naturally couldn't tolerate this situation to continue. Young Ku, put away your saber. Vulture waved his hand, looking calm, but with an indisputable taste. After that, Vulture looked at Lin Huayuan, who had been silent all the time, and said, Brother, it seems that everything that happened today has been acquiesced by you? Lin Huayuan's eyes flickered. After a while, he sighed and said, I have no choice. The 3 branches of Westbrook, Floating Cloud and Flying Peak, have made frequent movements recently. They even issued an ultimatum to occupy Heart-Cleansing Peak by tough means and inherit the power of Lin family. I have no choice but to do so. So, you think that only Northlight Lin can solve this disaster? Vulture asked. Lin Huayuan was silent for a moment and asked, So, how do you think we can solve this unprecedented dilemma? Wait. Vulture's answer was very simple, only one word. But it was obvious that this could not satisfy those clansmen of Northlight Lin. Humph. In my opinion, we have only one way left to choose at present. Suddenly, Lin Huaitong, Lin Huayuan's younger brother, said in a calm voice. What way? Vulture smiled as if he had seen through his brother's mind. Bow down to the 3 branches of Westbrook, Floating Cloud and Flying Peak. Together, we will control Heart-Cleansing Peak. Lin Huaitong's words were like thunder, which made the atmosphere in the hall suddenly silent. Impossible! Lin Zhong was angry and refused decisively. Even Lin Huayuan seemed to be a little surprised. He frowned and said, Huaitong, do you think they will let us go if we bow down to them? They have Zhou family and Qin family behind them. In this case they will never let us go. Elder brother, you are wrong. Lin Huaitong looked confident and said lightly, In the final analysis, we are all a family and we have no hatred with them. They just can't let go of Lin Sun. Now that Lin Sun is dead, we only need to expel these outsiders, open Heart-Cleansing Peak, and accept Westbrook Lins to settle in. Then the present disaster can be easily solved. The atmosphere in the hall became more and more silent. Many people's eyes flickered with different thoughts. These words could be described as heartrending. The implication was to completely draw a line with Lin Sun and then bow down to the hostile forces in exchange for peace and wealth. You are really ambitious. Lin Zhong was so angry that his hair was standing on end. More than 10 years ago, a bloody tragedy happened in the Lin family. Almost all the members of my master's family, except for the young master, were killed. That was the biggest crisis that the Lin family had ever faced. At that time, you chose to betray and collude with the enemy to divide the Lin family's property. I have never thought of avenging my dead clansmen. Lin family is in crisis again. Do you want to repeat the scene more than 10 years ago? Young master disregarded the former hatred and finally agreed to let you settle in Heart-Cleansing Peak and give you all kinds of benefits. But is this how you repay him? You should be punished. Lin Zhong was so angry that his eyes were about to crack. His face was livid. His voice was like thunder, which shook the hall and made many people's faces change. We are also doing this for the good of Lin family. Are you willing to watch Heart-Cleansing Peak decline until it is occupied by the enemy? Lin Huaitong was expressionless and his eyes were cold. Forget it. Don't mention it again. Lin Huayuan sighed and said, We have made a mistake in that year. This time, we can't make a mistake again. Lin Huaitong smiled and said no more. But he knew in his heart that his words had definitely moved many people. When Heart-Cleansing Peak was really forced into a desperate situation, there would be many people like him who would support this action. Elder brother, since you don't agree, what do you think we should do now? The power of Heart-Cleansing Peak is in the hands of those outsiders. We can't help even if we want to. Lin Huaitong sighed. His voice was faint, but there was a hidden sharpness in it. He was pressing step by step. The implication was that he still wanted to take this opportunity to seize the power of Heart-Cleansing Peak. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. When I entered Heart-Cleansing Peak for the first time, I said this problem to Lin Sun. I didn't expect that it would come true after such a long time. Vulture sighed softly. For a clan, it was taboo for outsiders to interfere in politics. Especially in the case of a group of dragons without a leader, there would be internal strife sooner or later. He had warned Lin Sun and made sufficient preparations for it. Unfortunately, man proposes, God disposes. Such a thing still happened. Mr. Vulture, are you scolding us for being merciless? What a joke. You are just outsiders, but you hold the power of Lin family. What else do you want us to do? Those high-level figures of Northlight Lin were dissatisfied. They felt that Vulture's words undoubtedly scolded all of them. Only Lin Huayuan sat there without saying a word. He frowned. To be honest, he didn't want to see such a thing happen. But now the news of Lin Sun's death had already spread. In such a case, Heart-Cleansing Peak was suffering from internal and external troubles. It was like a building that was about to collapse, which gave Lin Huayuan a headache. What should he do? Even he himself was at a loss of what to do. Elder brother, at this time, why are you still hesitating? Heart-Cleansing Peak can't be without a leader for a day. Now that you are in danger, it's reasonable for you to take charge of our Lin family. Our Lin family can't tolerate outsiders to interfere in it anymore. Lin Huaitong encouraged on one side. Other clansmen of Northlight Lin also echoed. This, Lin Huayuan's expression was gloomy. Lin Zhong, Young Ku, and the others felt a chill in their hearts, and their faces were unsightly. Only Ling Jie was unperturbed and seemed very calm. He had already expected this to happen. Although he was surprised, he was not surprised. However, there was a trace of worry in his heart. If Lin Sun couldn't solve this disaster, it would be too late even if Lin Sun came back later. Knock, knock. At this time, the closed door of the hall was suddenly knocked from outside. Suddenly, everyone frowned. This was the conference hall at the top of Heart-Cleansing Peak. They were holding the most important meeting. Who dared to knock at the door at this time? Chapter 659. There was a protective formation on Heart-Cleansing Peak. If there was no report, outsiders could not get in at all. Therefore, people in the hall subconsciously thought that it must be a blind attendant who came to disturb them at this time. Go on. I'll have a look. Young Ku took this opportunity to open the door first. She couldn't stay any longer. The ugly faces of people in the hall made her sick. Squeak. The closed door was opened. What's the matter? Young Ku looked up, but in an instant she closed her mouth. Her clear eyes flashed a touch of disbelief. What's the matter, instructor? Don't you recognize me? Outside the hall, Lin Sun stared at Drillmaster Young Ku with a warm smile on his face. Drillmaster Young Ku was beautiful and charming. Young Ku was stunned when she saw this handsome and familiar face before her, and unprecedented excitement and pleasant surprise surged within her heart. This fellow is actually still alive. In the past 6 months, Young Ku seemed to be strong, but how could she not worry about Lin Sun's safety on Heart-Cleansing Peak, which was full of internal and external troubles? During this period of time, she was so anxious that she didn't relax her eyebrows for a day. Now, when Lin Sun suddenly appeared, she almost thought she was dreaming. Lin Sun stepped forward, gently hugged Young Ku, and whispered, "Instructor, you have been wrong these days. Leave the next thing to me. You can see that your student is different from before." The warm and low voice was like a strand of clear spring water, and the young man's shoulders that had become thick and reliable since long ago caused the grievance, worry, and anxiety in young Ku's heart to be completely swept away, and she felt an unprecedented sense of security. She answered with a hum. Lin Sun smiled and then walked past young Ku. The moment he stepped into the hall, his smile was replaced by an almost emotionless indifference, and his black eyes were cold and deep. Elder brother, we can't hesitate any more. If Lin Sun hadn't offended too many forces, how could we fall into such a predicament? The most intolerable thing is that he is young and ignorant. Even if he died, the power of heart-cleansing peak would be controlled by a group of outsiders. He is a scourge. In the hall, Lin Huaitong was still eloquent. If you don't show up, I'm afraid that heart-cleansing peak of Lin family will no longer belong to Lin. As he spoke, he looked around at the clansmen of Northlight Lin and motioned them to persuade Lin Zhong and others to hand over the power of Lin family. However, when he glanced at the entrance of the hall, he suddenly became stiff. His proud and excited look solidified. He was dumbfounded as if he was struck by lightning. You! His eyeballs almost fell out. He was so shocked that he couldn't speak. What's wrong? Lin Huayuan frowned and glanced over. When he saw Lin Sun, he trembled all over. The teacup in his hand slipped down with a snap, and the hot tea spilled all over his clothes. However, he didn't notice it at all. He was still staring at that position with his face changing rapidly. At this time, Lin peak. Lin. When Lin spirit su Lin peak, Lin Feng. Lin Feng on. The noisy atmosphere also came to an abrupt stop, but there was an additional burst of crackling sounds. It was the sound of some teacups breaking on the ground. At such a moment it was particularly harsh, like an invisible ridicule and blow, which made many people's faces become very interesting. Bang! A big shot of Northlight Lin staggered and fell from the chair to the ground, as if his buttocks were on fire. He looked embarrassed. Other big shots were not much better. They didn't have time to see his ugly and embarrassing appearance. Lin Sun, the young man who disappeared for half a year, regarded as the backbone of heart-cleansing peak and regarded as a peerless talent by countless practitioners in the Forbidden City, came back. But didn't they say that he had died in the depths of Soul Oblivion Sea? This was confirmed by many forces in the Forbidden City. They all said that Lin Sun had committed heinous crimes in the depths of Soul Oblivion Sea and was chased by a group of life and death realm experts. Under such circumstances, they all thought that he had died long ago. Who could have thought that he came back alive? Everyone was as dull as clay sculptures and their minds went blank. A person who was regarded as dead suddenly appeared in front of them. The shock and impact was indescribable. What made those people of Northlight Lin feel the most disappointed was that just now, they were still forcing Lin Sun to abdicate and seize the power of Lin family. But now, Lin Sun, the master of heart-cleansing peak and the ruler of Lin family, came back. There was a dead silence in the hall. The atmosphere was so oppressive that people were almost out of breath. Mr. Vulture, Grandad Zhong, I'm back. Lin Sun ignored these people. He stepped forward, nodded to Vulture, and looked at Lin Zhong with a trace of distress in his eyes. Grandad Zhong looked old, but now he had a lot of white hair. He frowned and his eyes were sunken. He was so haggard. It could be imagined how much pressure this loyal elder was under in the face of the internal and external troubles of Lin family these days. Good. It's good that you're back. Lin Zhong was so excited that he couldn't speak coherently. His lips were trembling, and tears were flowing down his wrinkled face. Young Master was back. Miss Xiaji was right. How could young Master die? These days, Lin Zhong was indeed under unimaginable pressure. But at this moment, when he saw Lin Sun's figure, he felt that all the previous efforts were completely worth it. Lin Sun, a Tao Insight Realm expert, who was famous in the Forbidden City in those days, was now crying with gray hair on his temples, which made Lin Sun feel an unspeakable heartache and guilt. The more he felt like this, the more hatred and killing intent Lin Sun had in his heart. He had only left for half a year, but so many ugly and dirty things had happened. It seemed that he was too soft-hearted before. Master, you. God helps you. It's really a surprise that you can come back alive. But didn't it say that you encountered a great disaster in the depths of Soul Oblivion Sea? Is it a rumor? In the dead silence, Lin Huayuan took a deep breath, forced out an ugly smile and asked. Yes. It's really. Lin Huaitong blurted out next to Lin Sun, but he immediately realized that he had lost his composure and quickly shut up. Although the people around didn't speak, they were all extremely confused. The news of Lin Sun's death had been confirmed many times. At first, they didn't believe it. But later, more and more forces began to covet Lin family, which made them finally sure that Lin Sun must have met a disaster. But now, Lin Sun came back alive, which was too shocking. Let's talk about it later. Lin Sun looked calm. His words seemed to have an invisible majesty, which made the people present tremble and realize that something was wrong. Sure enough, Lin Sun's eyes fell on Lin Huaitong the next moment, which made the latter's face change and his heart beat violently uncontrollably. I heard everything that happened in the hall just now. I don't want to care about right or wrong. I just want to ask you one question. Speaking of this, Lin Sun's black eyes suddenly shot out a ray of cold light, and an invisible power spread out, oppressing everyone in the hall. He was too strong. Even Lin Zhong, Lin Huayuan, Young Ku and others were tense at the moment and felt a kind of unspeakable pressure. Obviously, Lin Sun had become many times stronger than before after not seeing him for half a year. Half a year ago, he was still in Sea Spirit Realm. Now, even Lin Zhong and others couldn't see the depth of Lin Sun, but there was no doubt that he must have stepped into Tao Insight Realm. Lin Huaitong was the first to bear the brunt. Being stared at by Lin Sun, he felt like facing a towering and distant mountain, which made him have an illusion of insignificance. Tell me, have you colluded with some external forces in secret for what you did today? Lin Sun's words were like a clap of thunder, exploding in Lin Huaitong's ears. Lin Huaitong was so shocked that he trembled all over. His expression changed countless times in an instant, and he almost didn't dare to look into Lin Sun's eyes. Everyone in the hall gasped. Lin Sun's words undoubtedly questioned whether Lin Huaitong had betrayed heart-cleansing pique. Lin Huaitong just wanted to say something, but Lin Sun said indifferently, "There is only one chance to answer. If you don't cherish it, you will bear the consequences." Suddenly, the atmosphere in the hall became more and more oppressive. Lin Huaitong felt cold all over. He felt that every inch of his skin became stiff. He swallowed hard and wanted to speak. But when he met Lin Sun's cold black eyes, his heart trembled inexplicably. He suddenly realized that if his answer didn't satisfy Lin Sun, the latter would definitely kill him without hesitation. This sort of strong intuition almost caused Lin Huaitong to collapse. He'd never imagined how a youth could bring such terrifying shock and pressure to him. Everyone noticed that Lin Huaitong's face was a little pale and his forehead was sweating. He wanted to say something, but he was struggling. This made them all tremble. Could Lin Sun's words produce such power? It was only half a year since they last saw each other. Did the teenager at that time already have such a formidable power? Patriarch, now heart-cleansing Peak, is suffering from internal and external troubles. It's a critical moment. I'm afraid that talking about such problems at this time will cause instability in people's hearts. Another big shot of Northlight Lin spoke. It seemed that he was unhappy to see Lin Huaitong being blamed. Instability in people's hearts? Lin Sun sneered. I think it's the people of Northlight Lin who are unstable in people's hearts. As soon as this remark came out, all the high-level members of Northlight Lin, including Lin Huayuan, felt uncomfortable all over. My patience is limited. If you don't answer, you will bear the consequences. Lin Sun's black eyes were steaming with cold, killing intent. He firmly locked Lin Huaitong like cold electricity. Today, he didn't intend to be soft. Chapter 660. Lin Huaitong's questioning made Lin Huaitong stiff all over and his face extremely bad. Previously, he encouraged Lin Huayuan to seize the power of heart-cleansing peak, scolded young Ku, called Vulture a cripple whose cultivation had been abolished, and didn't put Lin Zhong in his eyes. He seemed to be fearless and vigorous. But now, facing Lin Sun's cold eyes, he felt a kind of terrible oppression for the first time. It was terrible. There was a sign of collapse in his heart. However, the development of the situation was beyond Lin Sun's expectation again. Before Lin Huaitong could speak, someone stood up angrily and shouted, "Lin Sun, you are a junior. How can you talk to your uncle like this? Do you have any rules of the clan?" With someone taking the lead, other senior leaders of Northlight Lin were emboldened and spoke one after another. "Yes, according to the seniority, he is your uncle. As a junior, it's too disrespectful for you to scold him like this. Humph! Even when your father was alive, he didn't dare to talk to us like this. Lin Sun, you've gone too far. It's simply improper. As soon as you returned, you didn't inquire about right or wrong, and you're overbearing and cold to all the seniors. Do you even have any manners?" Seeing this, Lin Huayuan, who was on the verge of collapse, breathed a sigh of relief, and a smug smile appeared on his lips. No matter how arrogant Lin Sun was, he was just a junior of Lin family. Even if he was in charge of heart-cleansing peak and the legitimate heir of Lin family, did he dare to disobey the rules of Lin family and offend his superiors? Naive. Being condemned by thousands of people, Lin Sun remained calm, but his black eyes became colder and colder. He sneered, "Rules? Do you want to suppress me with seniority? It seems that I indulged you too much before, so that you didn't put me in your eyes from beginning to end." "What do you mean?" Lin Huaitong was also emboldened at this moment. He snapped, "Do you think these elders are wrong? It seems that you still don't think you're wrong." Lin Sun sighed suddenly, and there was a touch of waning interest on his face. Under the puzzled gaze of the crowd, he waved his hand in silence. Whoosh! A crimson divine rainbow shot into the hall from outside, and it transformed into a divine scarlet eagle that seemed to have been born from divine flames. Its wings were emitting a rain of flames. Although it was only 2 feet tall, it had a disdainful and terrifying aura. Instantly, the temperature in the hall skyrocketed, as if it was in a furnace. It was the Scarlet Eagle King. All of a sudden, all the people present were surprised and confused. They couldn't figure out what Lin Sun was going to do. What are you doing?" Lin Huaitong was furious. "Don't tell me you want to fight here? This is outrageous." On the other hand, Lin Huayuan seemed to have realized something, and a wisp of terror that couldn't be restrained appeared in his heart. His expression changed abruptly as he cried out involuntarily, "Don't," but it was already too late. Whoosh! Scarlet Eagle King's eyes shot out a terrifying fiery light. His wings were like blades as he lightly spread them in the air. A wisp of flames suddenly appeared and shot out. It was as sharp as a blade, burning the void. Everyone was shocked. They couldn't imagine that Lin Sun dared to do this. Puff! It was too fast. Although Lin Huaitong's strength was quite strong and he belonged to the top of Northlight Lin, he was facing the fatal blow of Scarlet Eagle King, who was at the peak of Tao Insight Realm. Moreover, it happened unexpectedly. Suddenly, he was swept by that wisp of flame, and his whole body was burning. "How dare you?" Lin Huaitong's eyes almost popped out, and his face was full of disbelief and unspeakable fear. Boom! The flame covered Lin Huaitong, producing a terrible power of incineration. In an instant, Lin Huaitong's whole body turned into a piece of ashes, leaving no bones. Until he died, he couldn't imagine that Lin Sun would kill him like this. Regardless of the rules and reasons, or the views of all the elders present, Lin Sun acted in his own way. It was too surprising that Lin Huaitong directly killed him without saying a word. Lin Huaitong was dead. The hall was dead silent, not a single sound could be heard. Lin Huayuan's younger brother, a high-ranking and powerful figure, was killed by Lin Sun like this. In terms of seniority and blood relationship, Lin Huaitong was Lin Sun's uncle, but he died like this. Moreover, he didn't die in Lin Sun's hands, but under the attack of a battle pet beside Lin Sun. Such a way of death was undoubtedly the crudest and most direct kind of contempt and insult. Don't accept it? Just kill him. I know the right and wrong. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you are. If you don't admit your mistakes and atone for your sins, then I'll just kill you. This was Lin Sun's attitude. How could things develop to this point? Lin Huayuan sat in the chair, looking absent-minded. His eyebrows were full of grief and indignation, as if he had suddenly aged countless years. Lin Huaitong was his younger brother, but he was killed like this. Whose fault was it on earth? The other big shots of Northlight Lin were all livid and their hearts were trembling with fear. Lin Huaitong's death sounded the alarm for them, making them all frightened and angry. They realized that the young man in front of them couldn't be measured by common sense at all. He didn't care about the righteousness of the clan at all. In his eyes, there was no difference between elders and juniors. What? Even the blood relationship was ignored by him. In the face of such a ruthless and powerful young man with no taboo, who dared to talk nonsense. At this moment, even Lin Zhong was surprised. He widened his eyes in shock and his mood was inevitably complicated. His young master would bear the infamy of killing his brother again in the future. However, if his young master didn't do this, how could he change the current predicament? A serious illness needs strong medicine. It's not enough to establish power without killing. From ancient times to the present, whether it's the struggle for the throne of a country or the internal struggle for the leader of a clan, there will inevitably be bloody conflicts. It's not uncommon for father and son to kill each other and brothers to turn against each other. If Lin Sun flinches and bears it silently this time, similar things will happen again sooner or later. Vulture transmitted his voice to appease Lin Zhong's mood. This is the cruelty of the power struggle. If you are not in the position, you will never understand how difficult it is to sit firmly in the position. Red Eagle folded his wings and stood on Lin Sun's shoulder. He raised his head and looked around. His eyes were like fire and lightning, as if he was looking for the next target to kill. Many big shots dared not look at him directly. I have given him a chance, but unfortunately, he didn't cherish it. Lin Sun looked calm, but he looked at Vulture. Sir, how many traitors do you think there are here? How many people have bad intentions during this period of time, and want to plot something they shouldn't think about? All the people present were horrified. Killing Lin Huaitong was not the end. He was going to carry out a thorough settlement. Patriarch. Lin Huayuan got up with grief and indignation. Today's matter is all my fault. I hope you can be magnanimous and don't investigate it further. He couldn't calm down anymore. If there was a settlement, Northlight Lin would inevitably suffer an unprecedented blow and even bleed, which he absolutely couldn't see. Lin Sun was expressionless. I can't rest easy until the hidden danger is eliminated. I hope you don't embarrass me, uncle. Perhaps Lin Huayuan's inaction accounted for a large part of today's mistake, but Lin Sun couldn't tolerate such a situation happening again. If he didn't find out all the black sheep and punish them severely, today's scene was bound to repeat on Heart-Cleansing Peak when he went to the ancient Desolation territory for cultivation. This is a list. At this time, Vulture came forward and handed a jade scroll to Lin Sun. Everyone present felt a chill in their hearts. Originally, they regarded Vulture as an old cripple who was useless. Who could imagine that this guy secretly collected all kinds of intelligence and waited for this time to take action? They didn't need to read it at all. They knew that the Jade Scroll must record all the intelligence and information of Northlight Lin during this period of time. Lin Sun seemed very calm. Although Vulture's cultivation was abolished, his wisdom was like the sea and his means were superb. If not, Lin Sun would not hand over the power of heart-cleansing peak to Vulture. Obviously, Vulture didn't let him down. This list was a good proof. Lin Sun opened the jade silk scroll. But soon, his face became gloomy, and there was even a wisp of undisguised killing intent in his black eyes. The list of names on the jade silk was simply shocking to the eye. During the period when Lin Sun disappeared, some big shots in Northlight Lin did something wrong were listed in detail. Some colluded with foreign enemies. Some secretly colluded with each other to usurp the power of heart-cleansing peak. Even some people didn't seem to do anything wrong, but they chose to look on indifferently. They were indifferent to those who colluded with foreign enemies and secretly colluded with each other. The atmosphere in the hall became more and more silent. All the great figures present here felt as if they were sitting on a bed of needles, and they were anxious and terrified to the extreme in their hearts. Some broke out in cold sweat, some had listless eyes, and some had dejected expressions. Their expressions were different, yet all of them revealed that their hearts weren't calm. "You are really good." Lin Sun put away the list and glanced at the audience with his black eyes. There was an invisible cold, killing intent pouring out like a tide. More than 10 years ago, there was a bloody incident in Lin family. Almost all the direct descendants were killed. At that time, in the 4 collateral forces, there were also despicable things of colluding with foreign enemies and dividing up the property of Lin family. But Lin Sun didn't expect that such a thing would almost happen again today. Lin Huaitong should be cut into pieces. He secretly contacted the 3 collateral forces of Westbrook, Floating Cloud and Flying Peak. At the same time, he encouraged some senior members of Northlight Lin to join hands and secretly fan the flames. He planned to force Lin Zhong to abdicate and seize the power of heart-cleansing peak. This was a strategy of inside and outside. When he seized the power of heart-cleansing peak, Lin Huaitong would occupy heart-cleansing peak together with the 3 collateral forces, such as Westbrook Lin, and become the new ruler of Lin family. Lin Sun didn't dare to think about it. If he came back a little later, the consequences would be too embarrassing. At that time, the whole heart-cleansing peak would be changed. Even if Lin Sun wanted to remedy it, it would be too late. Lin Sun's killing intent was so surging that he almost couldn't control it. It could be seen how great the impact on him was after reading the list. Chapter 661. It was spring all year round on heart-cleansing peak, and the climate was pleasant. But all the people in the hall felt like falling into an ice cave at this moment. They were attacked by the chill and felt a piercing killing intent, which made their souls tremble. It was terrible. Although Lin Sun was silent at the moment, his breath was like that of a god of death who had come out of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. Everyone knew that this list must be too impactful, which made Lin Sun almost unable to restrain his killing intent. Bang! In this tense and silent atmosphere, Lin Huayuan, as the leader of Northlight Lin, knelt directly on the ground and kowtowed. "Patriarch, please give Northlight Lin the last chance." All the people present were shocked. Lin Huayuan's kneeling was earth-shattering. Anyway, he was Lin Sun's elder and uncle. He was also a big shot in the Forbidden City. But now, he knelt in front of his nephew. If this was spread, Lin Huayuan was destined to become a laughingstock, but Lin Sun would also be implicated. After all, as a younger generation, it seemed too rebellious to force an elder to kneel down and beg for mercy. "Patriarch! Patriarch, you can't do that!" The senior leaders of Northlight Lin were panicked and tried to dissuade him. But Lin Huayuan ignored them and kowtowed to the ground without moving. Even Vulture and Lin Zhong were surprised. The significance of Lin Huayuan's kneeling was too unusual. How would Lin Sun deal with it? Lin Sun was silent for a moment and finally said calmly, "I can give Northlight Lin a chance, but those who conspire this time must be severely punished. Speaking of this, he didn't look at Lin Huayuan on the ground anymore. His black eyes swept across the faces of the big shots of Northlight Lin in the hall, which made those big shots uncomfortable. Now is the time for you to atone for your sins. Those who confess voluntarily will be punished lightly. Those who are stubborn will be killed without mercy. Lin Sun's words were loud and clear. Thank you for your magnanimity. Lin Huayuan on the ground also knew that this was the best result he could fight for. He got up from the ground and said, Patriarch, although this matter didn't start with me, it's because of my inaction that today's bitter fruit is caused. I hope to make up for it personally. How are you going to make up for it? Lin Sun asked. Lin Huayuan clenched his teeth as a ruthless look appeared on his face. Kill those who deserve to be killed and punish those who deserve to be punished. I'd rather kill and punish wrongly than tolerate a single one of them. All right, I'll give you a chance. Lin Sun gazed at Lin Huayuan for a moment and finally nodded in agreement. Those big shots of Northlight Lin in the hall were completely dumbfounded, as if they had lost their parents. They never expected that it would be Lin Huayuan who raised the butcher's knife against them in the end, just 4 hours after Lin Sun returned to Heart-Cleansing Peak. In Northlight Lin, 4 deacons were executed secretly. 13 clan elders were deprived of all their duties and imprisoned in the forbidden area of Heart-Cleansing Peak for self-reflection. In addition, there were 9 guest deacons, 7 guest elders, 19 clan disciples, and 63 clan attendants. All of them received varying degrees of punishment. This time, it seemed that Lin Huayuan wanted to show his attitude and win back Lin Sun's understanding. When he started to fight, he was as decisive as a thunderbolt, showing his cold, swift, and iron-blooded means. After doing all this, Lin Huayuan seemed to lose all his strength at once. He slumped in the chair with a gloomy and sad look. After this big settlement, Northlight Lin's vitality was greatly damaged. It was impossible for them to recover in a short time. But this was the best result. At least, there were still many young seedlings in Northlight Lin. As long as they were still alive, there was hope for them to grow again in the future. But if Lin Sun acted this time, the result was simply unimaginable. Lin Wenjing, you really gave birth to a good son. With such an heir leading the Lin family, it may not be impossible for the Lin family to restore the glory of 500 years ago and re-enter the ranks of the top aristocratic families. Lin Huayuan murmured with a touch of deep exhaustion and emotion on his face. Your Excellency! At this time, a guard came in and took out a secret letter, saying that someone had just sent it to Lin Huaitong. Lin Huayuan's lips twitched, and a touch of unspeakable pain welled up in his heart. Lin Huaitong, his younger brother, had long been killed by a red eagle beside Lin Sun. No. When he took the secret letter and was about to open it, Lin Huayuan's face changed slightly. He seemed to realize something and finally put the secret letter away carefully. Then he got up and left in a hurry for the Heart-Cleansing Hall. That's about it. At this time, in the Hall of Heart-Cleansing Peak, Lin Sun had briefly told some of his experiences in the depths of the Soul Oblivion Sea. However, although what he said was simple enough, Young Ku, Lin Zhong and Vulture were still shocked and couldn't calm down for a long time after listening to all this. In the Demon Saint Mystic realm, he had dominated the various races and killed so many saints that none of them dared to face him head-on. Later, he defeated 4 top saints by himself and became the biggest winner in the demonic saint secret realm, looking down on all the other races. Even though he became enemies with the Holy Land of Spiritual Treasure and was besieged by life-death realm kings of all races at the last moment, Lin Sun was still at ease and escaped from the desperate situation. Later, he went to the South Sea. Although he was besieged again in the Cloud Pung Bazaar, he escaped into the burial of Tao Sea grave with the help of Vast Universe Arkansas. During this process, more than one old monster had perished. All this sounded like a legend which was thrilling and incredible. If Lin Sun didn't say it himself, not to mention Lin Zhong and Young Ku, even Vulture, who had always been wise, wouldn't believe it. When they learned that Lin Sun had reached the full mastery of the middle realm of Tao insight and was almost invincible among his peers, Lin Zhong and the others were completely shocked, and their faces were very interesting. This is what a true young prodigy should be like. In a short period of half a year, he'd stepped into the Tao insight realm from the Spirit Sea realm, and he'd stepped foot on the rumored path to the peak. He was like a king that reigned supreme over all his peers, and he could suppress all enemies in this realm. If news of this spread, the Forbidden City would probably fall into a monstrous uproar. Who would dare imagine that the Sea Spirit Realm youth from half a year ago had already stepped foot into the ranks of great cultivators and was even a supreme king in this realm? No wonder this guy is so abnormal. It turns out that even life-death realm kings can't kill him. It's too terrifying. I'm afraid there aren't many heaven-defying monsters like him in the ancient times. Tempestuous waves arose in Crimson Eagle King's heart, and he finally understood how terrifying Lin Sun was. This caused him to become even more respectful and reverent when facing Lin Sun. He's only more than 10 years old, but he has become a supreme king in Tao Insight Realm at such a young age, and he also has the great fortune obtained from the Demon Saint's secret realm. It doesn't seem to be a bad thing to follow such a strong man. Crimson Eagle King suddenly came to a realization. He knew very well that if he could seize this opportunity and follow Lin Sun all the time, he would inevitably bring unimaginable benefits to him when Lin Sun proved his Tao in the future. At this moment, Crimson Eagle King was completely convinced. He saw a great fortune from Lin Sun. If he could follow him, he would definitely benefit greatly. As the saying goes, when a man achieves the Tao, his chickens and dogs also rise to heaven. Lin Sun's peerless demeanor made Crimson Eagle King yearn for such a day to come. By the way, even if I don't return this time, according to Mr. Vulture's wisdom, I'm afraid you won't let today's scene continue, right? Suddenly, Lin Sun looked at Vulture. Vulture smiled and nodded. I did have a backup plan and ordered Zhu Laosan to wait for orders in the dark. But I don't want to start a massacre unless I have to. After all, it's the internal affairs of your Lin family after all. As an outsider, there will be too many hidden dangers after all. Fortunately, you came back in time. This kind of thing will never happen again. Lin Zhong and Young Ku were stunned. They also realized at this time that Vulture had already made so many arrangements in secret. This is refining Tao Sea Soul Flower. Refining it is enough to dissolve the power of Devil Calamity Powder in your body. Lin Sun took out a sealed jade box, handed it to Vulture, and said with a smile, I'm looking forward to the moment when your cultivation is restored. In that instant, the usually calm and collected spirit Vulture actually lost his composure. His pupils shrank and the corners of his lips trembled. When he received the jade box, even his fingers were trembling slightly. It could be seen just how excited and shaken his heart was. At that time, he was a great practitioner of Tao Insight Realm. He was unparalleled in resourcefulness, style, and strategy. He had a bright future that made people envious and look forward to. But since the Devil Calamity Powder was dispersed and his cultivation was destroyed, all this no longer existed. He became a cripple in a wheelchair and could only drag out an ignoble existence. He thought that his life would end in this depravity. Who would have thought that Lin Sun would bring him a new life? For Vulture, a refining Tao Sea Soul Flower was indeed like giving him a new life, which was no less than giving him a second chance to charge forward. You treat me like a national knight, and I will repay you as a national knight. Vulture went into closed-door training. This was the sentence he left before leaving, solemn, and resolute. Lin Sun, thank you very much. Young Ku was also very excited. Vulture was like her father. She knew very well how hard it was for Vulture to live these years. How could Young could not be happy and moved that Lin Sun could give Vulture the hope of recultivation? Drillmaster, this is for you. Lin Sun also took out a jade box, in which a jasper saber was sealed. It was a powerful ancient treasure from the Holy Son of Green Scale Clan. At the same time, Lin Zhong also prepared gifts for Lin Zhong, Zhu Laosan, and Xia Ji, all of which were trophies he plundered from the depths of Soul Oblivion Sea. Each of them was carefully selected by Lin Sun, and their value was immeasurable. By the way, why is Xia Ji in closed-door training again? Lin Sun asked. Just a month ago, Miss Xia Ji suddenly said that she was going to do closed-door training, and then she fell asleep. She hasn't woken up until now. Lin Zhong explained. Lin Sun thought for a moment and immediately understood that Xia Ji had started the second quietus reincarnation. What she cultivated was the Nirvana 9 Revolutions scripture, which was a mysterious and terrifying cultivation method. Once she underwent nirvana, it was like cutting off all the cultivation of her previous life and turning it into a huge potential to nourish herself, allowing her to cultivate from the beginning. It was like reincarnation, wonderful and incredible. I don't know whether she will lose all her memories when she carries out the second quietus reincarnation. Lin Sun got up and wanted to see Xia Ji. There were not many people in the world who could make Lin Sun remember them, and Xia Ji was undoubtedly the most important one. Lin Sun felt a little worried and uneasy when he thought that she would cut off all the past and start over every time she underwent quietus. But before Lin Sun left, Lin Huayuan came in a hurry with an unopened secret letter and handed it to Lin Sun. Lin Sun took it and looked at it. A killing intent flashed in his black eyes. The content of the secret letter was very simple. The patriarchs of Westbrook Lin, Floating Cloud Lin and Northlight Lin invited Lin Huaitong to Westbrook Lin at dusk today to discuss the problem of taking charge of Heart Cleansing Peak. Obviously, they all thought that Lin Huaitong's action of seizing power would succeed today, so they were ready to discuss and plan how to take charge of Heart Cleansing Peak tonight. Unfortunately, they didn't know that Lin Huaitong had come back, and Lin Huaitong had no chance to receive this invitation letter. Originally, I wanted to hide from you for 2 days, but in this case, let's make a thorough end tonight. Crack. Chapter 662. What? Are you going to the banquet of Westbrook Lin tonight? Lin Huayuan's heart trembled and he hurriedly dissuaded him. Master, you can't do that. The big shots of the 3 branches of Westbrook Lin are gathered here tonight. It's a tiger's den. You just returned to the Forbidden City and don't know the situation. How can you take the risk in person? Lin Zhong also said, Young master, it's better to discuss this matter at length. Lin Sun smiled and said indifferently, All the big shots of the 3 branches are gathered together? That's great. I don't have to deal with them one by one. There was a hint of killing intent in his voice. As early as the first year in the Forbidden City, he had promised in public that he would give the 3 branches of Westbrook Lin, Floating Cloud Lin and Flying Peak a chance to think about it. He would not do anything to them within 3 years. Originally, Lin Sun thought that his conditions were generous enough. But now, 3 years later, the other side had begun to plot to seize the power of Heart Cleansing Peak, which undoubtedly showed that they had made a decision. In this case, how could Lin Sun bear it any longer? Lin Huayuan hesitated. Master, I'm not talking too much. But you should know that behind the 3 branches, there are 2 top aristocratic families, Zhuo and Qin. Before he finished, Lin Sun sneered. What top aristocratic families? They can only dominate the small Forbidden City. You don't have to worry about me. When I set foot on the gate of Westbrook Lin, I'll see what they can do to me. If they don't give me a satisfactory explanation, don't blame me for putting righteousness before family. Lin Sun's voice was cold. Although his tone was ordinary, Lin Huayuan, Lin Zhong and Young Ku felt a sense of arrogance from his words. Zhuo and Qin, which were ranked among the 7 top aristocratic families of the empire, were not in Lin Sun's eyes now. This was too amazing. But this was also a fact. Lin Sun was arrogant. In the depths of soul oblivion sea, he could easily crush any of the top aristocratic families. At that time, Lin Sun killed all the heroes of all clans, and even the kings of life and death realm couldn't do anything to him. No matter how strong Zhou and Qin were, could they be stronger than these forces? It could be said that the experience of soul oblivion sea had completely changed Lin Sun. In the past, he was too weak and could only rely on other means to protect himself. When faced with humiliation, attacks, and revenge, he could only endure. At that time, no matter if he was sad, frustrated, or upset, he would always wear a bright smile to hide his inner feelings and avoid making himself look too embarrassed. Now, after going through all kinds of dangerous tempering, Lin Sun set foot on the path of the real supreme Taoism. His vision and vision were completely different from before. In the past, the Forbidden City was full of powerful families, which made Lin Sun not dare to confront them head-on. But now, Lin Sun had no scruples. The young master has changed. He's like a true great figure that's full of valleys and looks down upon the world. He's like a treasured sword that's been tempered thousands of times and finally revealed its peerless edge today. Lin Zhong was in a trance. It had been almost 3 years since Lin Sun entered the Forbidden City. In the past 3 years, Lin Zhong almost watched how Lin Sun rose step by step and how he became stronger step by step. Now, Lin Sun might be only a 17-year-old boy, but his experience and the power he had mastered were enough to be called a great practitioner. He was a real peerless genius who could look down on the same realm and be proud of the present. At least in today's Forbidden City, Lin Sun had far surpassed his peers. Even some so-called great figures would find it difficult to compete with him. Master, you're right. When we practice Taoism, our state of mind should be like iron. All the so-called power, money, and wealth are illusory after all. Only the power we master is the foundation of eternal power. King Red Eagle on one side praised respectfully. What's more, Master can fight alone in the Soul Oblivion Sea for half a year, killing all the heroes of all races and making a group of life and death realm masters helpless. How can those secular forces slander and blaspheme such power? When he spoke up to hear, this peak great cultivator amongst demon cultivators was actually extremely excited as well, and he spoke resolutely and forcefully. During the ancient times, an almighty figure was capable of annihilating a world with a raise of his hand, and he was capable of causing the sun and moon to fall with a flick of his finger. All of this relied on his own strength. As for the so-called power, wealth, and status, to us, they're nothing more than a fleeting cloud. Lin Sun couldn't help but be surprised by these words. King Red Eagle could have the cultivation of the peak of Tao Insight Realm, which was really not simple. At least his knowledge was far beyond ordinary. Lin Huiyuan and Lin Zhong were also silent. They all realized that Lin Sun was indeed completely different from the past after disappearing for half a year. Master, in this case, I'll go with you tonight. Lin Huiyuan took a deep breath and volunteered. Young master, take me with you. Lin Zhong also looked at Lin Sun. Seeing that young Ku was about to speak, Lin Sun immediately said, No, it's enough for King Red Eagle to go with me. If too many people go, they will look down on me. In fact, the reason why Lin Sun made this decision was that he was worried that if Lin Huiyuan and Lin Zhong went together, they would not bear to see some too tragic bloodshed and would dissuade him. After all, to these old people, no matter what, the Lin family's bloodline still flowed in the bodies of the 3 branch families, Westbrook, Cloudcrest, and Flying Peak. They naturally couldn't bear to see such a tragic matter of internal strife occur. But Lin Sun had to do so. This hidden danger was like a malignant tumor. If it was not completely removed, all kinds of unpredictable disasters were destined to break out in the future. Next, Lin Sun asked about the 5th Grandpa Lin Baiguang, who was Lin Huiyuan's father. Then, he knew that Lin Baiguang had gone out for a long time and had not sent back any news for a long time. In the evening, dusk was coming. In the grand hall of the Westbrook Lin clan, the lights were shining brightly. The high-level figures from the three branches of the Lin clan, the Westbrook clan, the Cloud clan, and the Flying Peak clan were gathered together, drinking and chatting happily. They were all in a good mood, and their joy was obvious in their words. Everyone, half a year ago we were in a panic. We were almost driven to the point of stray dogs by Lin Soon. Now we are rising again. We are about to settle on heart-cleansing Peak. But Lin Soon has died somewhere in the soul oblivion sea. It's really delightful. Come, 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 everyone, let's raise our glasses together and toast. Lin Pingdu, the leader of Flying Peak Lin, raised his glass and laughed out loud. Everyone roared in agreement and raised their glasses to drink. Pingdu is right, but there is still the last step. We can't be careless. It's not too late for us to celebrate when Lin Huaitong comes. As the patriarch of Westbrook Lin, Lin Tianlong could still keep sober. But even so, there was a touch of unconcealable pride in the depths of his eyes. Today's heart-cleansing Peak was in a precarious situation with internal and external troubles. It was just like a building that was about to collapse, and all this was done by them. What's more, they had the support of Zhou family and Qin family. Under such circumstances, it was easy for them to seize heart-cleansing Peak. Therefore, how could Lin Tianlong not be proud and happy in his heart? When Lin Sun was still in the Forbidden City, the three families were out of breath. But now it was different. Lin Sun, the devil, was finally dead, and they had to start all over again. Brother Tianlong, when I was on my way to the banquet, I heard from an imperial guard who guarded the city gate that someone saw Lin Sun. Lin Yinshan, the leader of Yunheng Lin, suddenly spoke, which made many people's eyelids twitch. There was a trace of silence in the originally happy atmosphere. It's impossible. Yinshan, you drank too much. Don't listen to the nonsense of those lowly guards. Most of the rumors in the empire were spread by them. How can we believe their words? Lin Tianlong smiled. What's more, the news that Lin Sun died in the depths of the Soul Oblivion Sea has been confirmed by the imperial family. If a scourge like him can come back alive from the pursuit of a group of life-death realm kings, I can even cut my own throat to commit suicide. The crowd burst into laughter at once. Indeed, Lin Sun had disappeared for half a year. A few months ago, he was confirmed to have died in the depths of the Soul Oblivion Sea. How could he come back alive? But at this time, a cold and indifferent voice came from the door of the hall. Oh, in that case, you can cut your own throat to commit suicide. Suddenly, the atmosphere in the hall was a little stagnant. All the big shots frowned and were a little surprised. This time, the big shots of the three branches of Westbrook, Yunheng and Flying Peak gathered in the hall. Who dared to provoke them at this time? Under the gaze of the crowd, Lin Sun, who wore a moon-white robe and had a tall figure, appeared at the door of the hall with his hands behind his back. On his shoulder stood a majestic red eagle looking around with its head held high. In an instant, Lin Tianlong, Lin Yinshan, Lin Feifeng and others were stunned as if they were struck by lightning. Lin Sun? He was still alive? This was too sudden. It was simply like an enormous joke, and it was also like someone had struck them hard with a stick, causing them to be stunned. And those who didn't recognize Lin Sun's appearance all looked gloomy. A young man dared to provoke them at this time. He was simply courting death. Where are the guards? Are you blind? How can you let an outsider break in casually? You're just a bunch of good-for-nothings. An elder of Westbrook Lin slapped the table and stood up, shouting loudly. But surprisingly, it was quiet outside, and not a single guard answered. This made him angrier and angrier, so he decided to do it himself. He stared at Lin Sun coldly and said, "Boy, do you know where you are? Is this a place where you can behave atrociously? Get out of here, or—" Whoosh! Chapter 663. Puff! The big shot of Westbrook Lin, who slammed the table and stood up, had no time to react. His throat was pierced by a dazzling fire. His pupils bulged suddenly, and his face was full of anger and horror. He still couldn't believe it. Boom! After that, his entire body started to burn. In an instant, he transformed into ashes that rustled as they scattered all over the ground. Not even his bones remained. Red Eagle King had returned to Lin Sun's shoulder. His flaming red wings converged, and a touch of disdain flashed in his ruby-like eyes. How dare such a trash desecrate his master's dignity in front of his face? He was courting death. The whole place was so silent that even a pin drop could be heard. Tonight was supposed to be a grand and joyful party. The big shots of the three collateral forces of Lin family gathered together to plan to seize Heart-Cleansing Peak. However, who would have thought that there would suddenly be a flash of fire, and a major character would be incinerated into nothingness like a withered leaf, dying right before their eyes. This scene was too shocking, and some guests were shocked to the point of almost letting out sharp cries. The originally bustling and joyous atmosphere had vanished without a trace, and it was replaced by a strand of terrifying coldness. Who were the young man and the Red Eagle around him? How dare they come to the territory of Westbrook Lin to kill people? When people looked at Lin Sun at the door of the hall again, their eyes had changed with a touch of surprise and solemnity. After all, only a few people had seen Lin Sun's real face. Most of the clansmen of the three collateral forces of Lin family hated Lin Sun's guts, but they didn't know what Lin Sun looked like at all. It had to be said that this was absolutely ironic. Only a few people, such as Lin Tianlong, Lin Yenshan and Lin Pingdu, recognized Lin Sun's identity at the first time. But they were stunned as if they were struck by lightning and saw a ghost. A guy who had been confirmed to be dead suddenly appeared in front of them. That kind of shock was too much. Young man, no matter where you come from or what your purpose is, it's too much for you to kill people for no reason. A silver-haired old man with a dignified look stood up and said coldly. He was the first elder of Westbrook Lin and the elder brother of Lin Tianlong. His name was Lin Tianhun. He had been through a lot, so he was very calm at the moment. Oh, really? Lin Sun looked indifferent and ignored the people in the hall. He put his hands behind his back and walked into the hall leisurely. This caused Lin Tianhuan's expression to change slightly. He realized that something was wrong, but he still couldn't believe it. How could a mere youth be so daring? What an arrogant little fellow. Don't think that you can bully our Lin family just because you have some ability. A person like you is only cannon fodder at best. Tell me, who sent you here? Do you know the consequences of offending our Lin family? Lin Tianhun frowned and his expression darkened. Subconsciously, he thought that Lin Sun was sent by some great force. Otherwise, such a little guy would not dare to commit murder even if he had the guts to do so. Tell me, what are the consequences of offending you? Lin Sun's dark eyes were deep and indifferent, and he looked calm as he glanced at the people present. While he was speaking, Lin Tianlong, Lin Yenshan, and Lin Pingdu had already recovered from the shock a little and came to their senses. However, their faces were extremely pale, and they were trembling all over. They looked shocked and angry, as well as incredulous. The other big shots in the vicinity finally realized that something was wrong. Especially when they saw the expressions of Lin Tianlong and the others, they were even more shocked. As the leaders of the three branches of the Lin family, they had seen all kinds of storms and waves. How could they be so shocked by a mere youth's visit today? Haha, you're really a hothead. I'm not afraid to tell you that this time, the three branches of the Lin family have gathered together, and we have the support of the Zhua and Qin aristocratic families. I'm afraid that a hothead like you will never know such power, Lin Tianhun chuckled. When it came to the support of the Zhua and Qin aristocratic families, there was even a hint of arrogance between his eyebrows. Young man, tell me, who sent you here? If you don't give me a satisfactory explanation today, then… Obviously, he was threatening and intimidating Lin Sun. But before he could finish, Lin Tianlong interrupted. Big brother, don't say any more, this guy is Lin Sun. Lin Tianhun was instantly disdainful. What Lin Sun? He dares to come to my Lin family to commit murder, even if he's the emperor. What did you say? He, but halfway through his sentence, he suddenly realized something. His expression changed, and his eyes widened. He looked like he had seen a ghost, and he was so shocked that he stuttered. He's Lin Sun? Lin Tianhun finally said the name, but his face was already full of shock, and his eyeballs almost fell out. Lin Sun. At this moment, everyone's expression changed as they realized the reason. The young man in white robes, a man and an eagle, was Lin Sun, who had long been confirmed to be dead in the depths of the soul oblivion sea. Many people were shocked to the point of standing up abruptly, and their faces were filled with shock and disbelief. Didn't you die in the soul oblivion sea long ago? Lin Tianhun was shocked and angry. His original pride and complacency were now replaced by a look of shock. How could this young man, who had oppressed the 3 branches of the Lin family half a year ago, return alive? Why? Others were also shocked and puzzled. Old man, how can a small soul oblivion sea trap such a powerful figure as my master? It's really stupid. Red Eagle King's disdain made Lin Tianhun angry and scared. This sentence seemed harsh, but it undoubtedly proved that the soul oblivion sea didn't trap Lin Sun. Lin Sun ignored the shock of the people in the hall. He stood there and said, "Since everyone is here, I'll get to the point. 3 years ago, I gave you a chance to consider submitting to heart-cleansing Peak." He glanced at the crowd. "But it's obvious that you not only don't intend to submit to me, but also want to seize things that you shouldn't have. Do you really think that I dare not kill you?" When the word "kill" came out, Lin Sun's black eyes were suddenly full of cold and terrible killing intent, which made everyone feel cold. "Ha ha ha, ridiculous, it's really ridiculous. If it was in the past, we might be afraid of you if you boast like this. But now you have thrown yourself into the trap. Do you think you still have a chance to survive in the territory of Westbrook Lin?" Lin Tianlong burst into laughter, and his eyes became cold and gloomy. He finally sobered up completely. Before, he was just shocked by the fact that Lin Sun was still alive, but it didn't mean that he was afraid of Lin Sun. Yes, this guy is alone. All the big shots in the hall came to their senses and looked relaxed. When they looked at Lin Sun again, there was a touch of pity in their eyes. This guy was really arrogant. He dared to come here alone to commit murder. He really didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. There were a lot of big shots of the 3 branches of Lin family gathered here. It was a powerful lineup. Lin Sun alone could not bring any threat to them. In the past, you either hid in Heart-Cleansing Peak or Green Deer School. But now, you took the initiative to come here to die. Should I say that you are arrogant or stupid? Lin Yinshan also smiled with a graceful and proud look. Alas, this is our nephew, Lin Wenjing's good son. Unfortunately, he chose to fight against us. For the future of our Lin family, it seems that we have no choice but to sacrifice our family for righteousness. Lin Pingdu looked leisurely, but he was extremely excited in his heart. There was a way to heaven, but you didn't take it. Instead, you came to hell. Other big shots present also sneered, and some were secretly annoyed. They felt that they were shocked by Lin Sun's appearance just now. It was too shameful. A silly little fellow that ran to their door to die should be worth being happy about. In their view, Lin Sun was indeed very dazzling. He was successful at a young age, and his achievements attracted the attention of the world. But after all, he was just a young grandmaster of spiritual tattoos, a junior. It was not easy to kill him. Of course, they still subconsciously thought that Lin Sun was just in sea spirit realm, as he was half a year ago. He didn't pose any threat to them at all. That was why they were so fearless, excited, and complacent. They were simply like 2 different people compared to how they were earlier when they were shocked and in a sorry state. The atmosphere in the hall became relaxed again, full of noise and banter. On the faces of every big shot, there were expressions of pity, awe, pride, or excitement. What was more delightful than the prey coming to the door voluntarily? The scene in front of them confirmed this point. The appearance of Lin Sun might have shocked them, but when they came to themselves, they found that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to kill Lin Sun. A group of poor guys, Red Eagle King suddenly sighed, with a touch of pity in his flame-like eyes. These idiots didn't use their brains to think that since their master dared to come alone, how could he not have the confidence? Have you finished saying your last words? At this moment Lin Sun seemed calmer. His black eyes were cold as he glanced at the audience. If you have finished, I will send you to hell. Last words? All the great figures exploded with rage. It's already at a time like this, yet this kid actually still dares to be so arrogant. He's really tired of living. Some big shots felt inexplicably horrified. Lin Sun was too calm, which made them feel something was wrong. However, they still didn't know what kind of storm a boy who was only at sea spirit realm half a year ago could set off under such circumstances. Was he relying on that scarlet godly hawk? That feathered beast might be very powerful, but it didn't mean that no one present could deal with it. Finally, someone seemed to think of something, and his face suddenly changed. No, why didn't Shen Jingluan and Zhu Laosan come together? If they knew that this boy came to die, how could they just sit back and watch? What was more, Lin Sun could suppress the three families in the past. How could he be the kind of person who foolishly came to their door to die? On the contrary, this boy was so famous at such a young age and attracted the attention of the whole world. How could he be an idiot? Among his peers, few could compete with him. No. There must be some mystery in it. However, it was too late when these people realized and were about to remind Lin Sun. Clang. Chapter 664. The sound of the saber was faint, surging like wind and thunder. In an instant Lin Sun disappeared. Puff. An elegant middle-aged man was sneering. But in an instant, he felt a chill in his heart. He looked down and found a bloody hole in his chest. You! His sneer froze on his face and his pupils dilated. He wanted to say something, but he fell to the ground and died before he had a chance to say it. Boom! On the other side, a big shot was drinking with a glass of wine. But his eyes suddenly protruded. He was shocked to find that an ice-hornless figure, which seemed to be carved out of ice and snow, was sitting in the void and staring at him indifferently. No. As soon as he was about to struggle, his body was crushed by the ice-hornless claw. His flesh and blood flew everywhere, and he died on the spot. Pull out the saber? Does this puppy really dare to fight? At the same time, a beautiful woman opened her mouth sharply. When she was about to humiliate Lin Sun, she felt like being hit by a primordial barbaric bull. Her tendons and bones were broken, and her flesh and blood were splashed. In an instant, she died on the spot. This was the bare hit. One hit could shake a mountain. Something's wrong, a white-haired old man was frowning in contemplation, but he didn't notice that a Swanee's figure had appeared in an ancient palm print, and it smashed down with a bang, directly crushing his body into a pile of meat paste that dyed the ground red. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. It was unbelievably fast. It was as if many peerless experts had attacked at the same time. In fact, all of this was done by Lin Sun alone. With his current realm and strength, he could already be regarded as the king of Tao Insight Realm. He could overlook the whole realm and kill all enemies. Some of the so-called big shots present might be in Tao Insight Realm, or they might be the top of the three branches of Lin family in terms of status and identity. But when it came to real combat effectiveness, they were not even as good as the saints in the Soul Oblivion Sea. For Lin Sun, they were no different from chickens and dogs, so he was not afraid of any deterrence at all. There were screams and roars of anger in the hall. The hall was in a mess. The tables were smashed, the cups were broken, the walls collapsed, and the ground was blood-stained and cracked as if it had been destroyed by a storm. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. It was so fast that even now many big shots didn't realize it. Indeed, who could imagine that Lin Sun would directly attack them? Simple, direct, and unrestrained. "How dare you!" Lin Tianlong roared. He took out a bronze sword and slashed it at Lin Sun. Lin Sun casually pressed down, and an invisible and terrifying force swept out. Lin Tianlong didn't even get close to Lin Sun before he was sent flying, blood spurting out from his mouth and nose. With just one blow, Lin Tianlong, the patriarch of Westbrook Lin and a strong man in Tao Insight realm of the older generation, was sent flying like a clown without any power to resist. Lin Tianlong was horrified. He finally realized the problem. Lin Sun dared to come here alone. He didn't come here to die. Obviously, Lin Sun was fearless. However, it had only been half a year since they last met. How did that little guy at the Sea of Soul realm become so terrifying? The expressions of the other great figures changed as well, realizing the same problem. This made them feel both shocked and furious, and they were in a state of panic. All the big shots present were the big shots of the three collateral forces of Lin family. How strong was the lineup when they gathered together? But now, as soon as they met, Lin Sun killed 6 or 7 of them like a hot knife through butter. Even a master like Lin Tianlong couldn't withstand a single blow from Lin Sun. His mouth and nose were bleeding, and he was in a mess. It was too horrible. How could he be so powerful? It was hard for all the big shots to accept. In half a year, Lin Sun had grown to such an incredible level. If he was given more time, the Forbidden City would not be able to tolerate him. "Let's kill him together," Lin Yenshan, the patriarch of Floating Cloud Lin, roared. He noticed that many people in the field were shocked by Lin Sun's power. If it continued, the consequences would be unimaginable. Only by gathering their strength and defeating Lin Sun's spirit could they reverse the situation and turn the situation around. Lin Yinshan didn't believe that Lin Sun's strength could go on like this forever. Boom! Many big shots besieged Lin Sun together with Lin Yinshan as if they had found their backbone. For a while, all kinds of secret methods and treasures were flying around. They were brilliant and dazzling. The terrible waves produced completely collapsed the whole palace and turned it into ruins. Lin Sun's black eyes were calm. His figure was like a dream, and his style was peerless. In the face of such a siege, he didn't even look at them and displayed the hegemonic prohibition. Boom! A formless and terrifying aura enveloped the entire area, transforming into a restriction that imprisoned all the great figures who were surrounding him in the void. When looked at from afar, they were like numerous fishes that had been frozen in a layer of ice, and they actually didn't move in the slightest. This strange scene shocked some great figures in the distance to the point their scalps went numb while coldness arose in their hearts. What sort of terrifying secret technique is this? Puff, puff. Before they came to their senses, they saw Lin Sun sweep the broken blade in his palm, and 7 or 8 bloody heads fell to the ground. Only then did their headless corpses fall to the ground, lying in a pool of blood. Only Lin Yinshan was spared. It wasn't that he was extremely powerful, but Lin Sun seemed to have deliberately spared him. When he saw the heads rolling all over the ground, Lin Yinshan was so shocked that his eyes almost popped out. The blue veins on his forehead bulged, and he almost collapsed there. It was terrible. In the blink of an eye, life and death had been decided. Originally, they wanted to defeat Lin Sun's spirit. Who would have thought that even such an attack was still destroyed by Lin Sun? When he thought that he almost died at that moment, Lin Yinshan was so scared that his soul almost left his body, and his face was extremely ugly. He is just a teenager. How can he be so strong? He trembled all over, unable to accept all this. While Lin Yinshan was in a trance, Lin Sun had already taken advantage of this time to kill 4 or 5 people in succession. Almost all of them were killed with one move. It was simple and direct, as easy as harvesting straw. From beginning to end, Lin Sun did not encounter any obstacles at all. That kind of irresistible and invincible posture didn't need to be exaggerated at all to shock all the people present. The most terrible thing was that even at this moment, Lin Sun still looked indifferent and calm. His clothes were spotless and aloof. At his feet, there were still warm corpses and pools of blood. Red Eagle King had been watching from the side. This was Lin Sun's family business, and he was not allowed to intervene. Therefore, he saw this battle completely. Even though he had already experienced the horror of Lin Sun's fighting power when he witnessed the scene in front of him, he still couldn't calm down. He also finally understood why in ancient times, the strongmen of all races admired and yearned for the supreme way of cultivation so much. Those who could set foot in this realm were absolutely the kings of the talents, like the sun in the sky, who could shine alone. This was the strongest way of cultivation. They were known as the supreme talents, who could suppress a realm and sweep away all the others. And Lin Sun had undoubtedly stood on the top of the Tao Insight realm. He was like a king, a living legend. Who could have imagined that a king of the Grotto Heavens, a heaven's chosen son of heaven, was only a teenager? Red Eagle King couldn't calm down anymore. He was excited and shocked. At the same time, he was full of pity for those big shots of Lin family. They were a group of poor frogs at the bottom of a well, who didn't know the vastness of the world. It was ridiculous. Sooner or later, a person like Lin Sun would shine in the struggle of all races, and his future would be limitless. But they didn't take this opportunity to support Lin Sun. Instead, they regarded Lin Sun as an enemy for some ridiculous power struggle. How ridiculous was that? A great opportunity is in front of you, but you have eyes but fail to see. Haha, it's really ridiculous, Red Eagle King sneered in his heart. The killing continued. Lin Sun seemed to have turned into a ruthless executioner, rampaging in the field. Blood had flowed all over the ground, and there was frightening red everywhere, like a tragic purgatory of killing. If outsiders knew this, they would be shocked. They were all clansmen of Lin family. Even if they were branches of Lin family, the blood of Lin family flowed in their bodies. But Lin Sun seemed to want to kill them all. If it was spread out, he would bear the heavy infamy of killing relatives. But Lin Sun didn't care. For the future of Lin family, he must carry out a thorough settlement. He couldn't tolerate the repetition of the bloody incident that happened more than 10 years ago. Traitors must be given the harshest blow. In Lin Sun's eyes, the three branches of Westbrook, Floating Cloud and Flying Peak, had undoubtedly betrayed Lin family completely. More than 10 years ago, they colluded with external forces to carve up the property of Lin family. Lin Sun was willing to give them a chance to atone and correct their mistakes, and promised them 3 years to consider. But in the end, they didn't cherish it. Instead, they completely turned to Zhou family and Qin family. They would rather be the running dogs of these two families than to return to Heart-Cleansing Peak. This was absolutely intolerable to Lin Sun. Stop. We admit defeat. Lin Tianlong let out a sad roar. He trembled all over and couldn't control his emotions. His heart was bleeding. All the big shots gathered here this time were the top of the three families. But now more than half of them were killed like cutting melons and vegetables. This was definitely a blow that no one could bear. Lin Tianlong couldn't stand it anymore. The loss was too great. It would be difficult for him to establish a foothold in the Forbidden City in the future. At the same time, there was a sense of despair in his heart. Half a year ago, Lin Sun, who was at Sea Spirit Realm, had oppressed the three families. Now, he had become so terrifying and powerful. How could they have a chance to breathe in the future? I gave you 3 years to consider. Now you regret it? It's too late. Chapter 665. Hearing Lin Sun's resolute answer, Lin Tianlong completely collapsed. He stood there in a daze and lost his wits. Smoke from the flames of war filled the air, and shrill screams reverberated in the air. The number of corpses on the ground increased, and the pool of blood glowed a dazzling red under the reflection of the swords and blades. This was an unpredictable tragedy, and it was still happening. Not only Lin Tianlong, but also Lin Yinshan and Lin Pingde. Different from Lin Tianlong, the latter two seemed to be crazy at the moment. They had already lost control of their emotions and were stimulated by the scenes in front of them. They kept rushing to kill Lin Sun. It seemed that they didn't care about their lives at all. However, Lin Sun didn't intend to kill them at once. Every time he attacked, the two of them flew out and looked embarrassed. "How cruel you are! Do you want us to watch you slaughter our compatriots?" Lin Yinshan roared with his eyes wide open. "Kill me if you have the guts. Why not? Come on." On the other side, Lin Pingdu's hair was disheveled, and his face was distorted and crazy. Unfortunately, Lin Sun ignored all this. His indifferent and cold attitude made the two of them really crazy. This was a cruel torture which made them beg for death. They could only watch helplessly. Watching this tragedy unfold, watching the bloodline clansmen fall into a pool of scarlet blood in fear, helplessness, anger, and unwillingness. It was too torturous. At this time, more than half of the people in the field had been killed or injured. Lin Sun's clean killing method had already shocked everyone, making them frightened and frightened. Their fighting spirit collapsed. But when they chose to flee, they noticed to their astonishment that their surroundings were covered in boundless mist, while 4 mysterious stone pillars stood towering there, and they completely confined this expanse of the heavens and the earth. 4-image dragon pillar. How could the people present not recognize this treasure? It was the most precious treasure of Flying Peak Lin, which had always been in the hands of Lin Feifeng, the father of Lin Pingdu. However, Lin Feifeng had long been killed by Lin Sun, so this treasure naturally fell into Lin Sun's hands. In an instant, everyone was desperate. They realized that from the moment Lin Sun stepped into Westbrook Lin, he had already prepared many means and didn't intend to let them leave alive. No wonder the movement here was so big, but up to now, other clansmen of Westbrook Lin were not alarmed. All of this was because this place had been sealed a long time ago. Boom! When he realized this, Lin Tianlong felt as if he had been struck by lightning. Deep in his heart, he had hoped that his old ancestor could hear the news and come here to kill Lin Sun. But when he saw the 4 symbols coiling dragon pillars, he lost all hope. Nothing is more sorrowful than a dead heart. At this moment, Lin Tianlong's mental state could only be described as burning. Now only the 3 of you are left. After an unknown period of time, an indifferent voice sounded out by his ear, and it was like a thunderclap that caused Lin Tianlong to awaken from his numb and blank state. He looked around blankly, only to discover that the ground was dyed with pools of blood and piles of corpses. Only Lin Yinshan and Lin Feifeng sat on the ground with disheveled hair and ragged clothes. They were covered with mud and blood stains, and their eyes were blank. On the opposite side, Lin Sun stood alone. His clothes were still spotless, and his expression was still calm and indifferent. He was like a detached and aloof young man, which was particularly dazzling in this bloody and messy scene. "Those are all your relatives. How could you?" Lin Tianlong struggled to speak in a hoarse and sorrowful voice. "Relatives?" Lin Sun's black eyes showed a touch of coldness. "I have never seen such despicable and shameless relatives. From the moment you chose to betray Lin family and become enemies with Lin family, you are just a group of traitors in my eyes. Ho-ho, since ancient times, the ending of any battle is nothing more than the 4 words winner takes all. This time you win, I have nothing to say. You can kill me or cut me up as you like." Lin Tianlong looked indifferent and lonely. "Winner takes all?" Lin Sun suddenly sighed at this moment and asked, "Do you think Zhuo and Qin family will avenge you after they know what happened today?" Lin Tianlong was stunned, and then said without hesitation, "Of course." "Are you sure?" Lin Sun stared at Lin Tianlong closely. Lin Tianlong's face changed slightly and his eyes flickered. It seemed that he didn't dare to look into Lin Sun's eyes, so he turned his head slightly. Lin Xian's voice was calm. In fact, you already know the answer in your heart. It's impossible for Zhua and Qin family to avenge you. Because I am still alive and you are all dead. Dead people are undoubtedly of no use to those superior forces. Under such circumstances, it is impossible for them to offend me for you. Lin Sun's words were like a sharp knife stabbing into Lin Tianlong's heart, making him tremble all over and his face extremely pale. As the leader of Westbrook Lin, he was naturally not an ordinary person. He didn't need to think at all to know what Lin Sun said was right. But in the face of such a cruel reality, who could face it soberly? We have been defeated. Do you still want to humiliate us like this? Lin Yenshan, who was sitting on the ground on the other side, said in a low voice as if he had lost all his strength. Just give us a quick death. Lin Pingdu murmured with his eyes lost focus. You are wrong. I don't keep you alive to humiliate and torture you. Lin Sun said calmly. I just want to give you 3 families a last chance. Chance? Lin Tianlong and others were all stunned. Lin Sun said, You may deserve to die, but do you want your clansmen to die with you? Lin Sun's words made Lin Tianlong and others all shocked. They didn't know where they got the strength from, but they shouted in unison, What on earth do you want? Living in the world, they were not alone. They had wives, children, relatives and friends, and clansmen who were dependent on them by blood. If Lin Sun killed all the people of their 3 families, they absolutely didn't want to see the result. What do I want? Lin Sun finally couldn't keep the calmness in his eyes. There was a touch of anger that couldn't be concealed. If you can think so for your clansmen in the past 3 years, how can today's things happen? Lin Sun's voice was as cold as thunder. At this moment, Lin Sun really couldn't control his anger. How could it be a good feeling to use his own hands to eradicate the traitors in the clan? Outsiders might only see that Lin Sun killed his clansmen, but who could understand the pain in his heart? In the face of Lin Sun's questioning, Lin Tianlong and others trembled all over. Their faces became paler and paler. They bowed their heads dejectedly and said nothing. After a while, Lin Sun took a deep breath and said calmly, Don't worry. In my eyes, those innocent clansmen are still a part of Lin family. As long as they repent and turn over a new leaf, they are destined to have a place on heart-cleansing peak. Lin Tianlong and others were all stunned. It seemed that they couldn't believe it. They didn't expect this result. It was not too bad but too good. You may not believe it. From the moment I took over the power of heart-cleansing peak, I was not interested in the so-called power of the clan at all. Even I had already thought about it. When the internal and external troubles of Lin family were completely solved, I would give up the position of the head of the family. Lin Sun stood there and whispered to himself, I have to avenge my parents, find my teacher, and seek for my Tao. I have no energy and mind to control a family at all. Unfortunately, even if you know these things, I'm afraid you won't believe it at all. Lin Tianlong and others' expressions changed. They were gloomy and silent. Boom! Lin Sun waved his sleeve and removed the 4 symbols coiling dragon pillars. The confinement around him disappeared immediately. Tianlong, how did you become like this? Suddenly, an old man appeared. He was Lin Sisi. According to the seniority, he was Lin Sun's second grandfather, a practitioner of reincarnation developing realm. He had been alarmed and anxious for a long time. But he was blocked outside the 4 symbols coiling dragon pillars and couldn't break this kind of confinement. When he finally saw everything in front of him, Lin Sisi was completely stunned. His eyes were bloodshot as if he was struck by lightning. The ground was a mess, corpses and pools of blood. It was like purgatory on earth. Did you do all this? Lin Sisi was furious. His eyes were like cold lightning as he stared at Lin Sun. Behind him, there were a group of clansmen of Westbrook Lin, both men and women. At this moment, they were all shocked by the bloody scene and their hands and feet were cold. It was terrible. They couldn't accept it. Yes. Lin Sun looked very calm. He looked at Lin Cece and said, I'm the head of Lin family. I just eradicated some traitors. Did I do anything wrong? Lin Cece was so angry that he trembled all over. He gritted his teeth and said, How dare you kill your elders? You deserve to die. Boom. A horrible breath spread from Lin Cece, disturbing the wind and clouds. This was the power of a great practitioner in reincarnation developing realm. Once he was angry, he could burn mountains and boil seas, causing an unpredictable disaster. Lin Sun looked calm and unafraid. But Lin Tianlong's face had already changed. He rushed up and stood in front of Lin Cece. Father, don't! Lin Tianlong shouted, This time, it's our fault. Enough people have died today. Don't do it again. Lin Cece was shocked. He didn't expect that it was his son who stopped him. Even Lin Sun was a little surprised, but he soon calmed down. He knew that Lin Tianlong just wanted to make up for it as much as possible. Why? Lin Cece's face was livid. We made mistakes more than 10 years ago. What happened today makes me completely understand that we can't make mistakes again. Lin Tianlong gasped for a while. His voice was resolute and powerful, and Lin Sun has promised to spare those innocent clansmen and even give them a chance to return to Heart-Cleansing Peak. Father, this is the best result. I don't want to continue to kill each other. It's too painful. I don't want other clansmen to be implicated innocently like me. In that case, I'll be a sinner for all ages. Even if I die, I'll be ashamed of the ancestors of Lin family. In the end, he, a great practitioner in Tao Insight Realm and the leader of Westbrook Lin, almost broke down with tears in his eyes. Lin Cece was moved, and so were all the clansmen of Westbrook Lin. They were all stunned and had an indescribable feeling in their hearts. In the distance, Lin Sun nodded secretly and looked a little relaxed. At this moment, Lin Tianlong got the only recognition from him. Chapter 666. The atmosphere was silent. Lin Tianlong's words were so earth-shattering that the clansmen of Westbrook Lin couldn't come back to their senses for a while. Lin Cece's chest rose and fell for a long time. Finally, he held back his anger and stared at Lin Sun coldly. You want Westbrook Lin to surrender? Well, you have to pass me first. As long as you get my approval, I won't pursue this matter any further. Lin Sun frowned and immediately calmed down, saying, What I want is surrender, not approval. You can refuse, but don't blame me for massacring this place tonight. Massacring this place. Just 4 words shocked all the people present, and their faces became extremely gloomy. Lin Cece, in particular, was so angry that his face turned pale and blue. After changing his expression for a long time, he said, Surrender? Yes. But you are just a little guy. What qualifications do you have to make me surrender? This sentence seemed to be self-righteous, with a sense of reprimand and disdain. According to seniority, he was Lin Sun's second grandfather, but now he was threatened by Lin Sun, a junior, which was simply a shame. Father! Lin Tianlong was so anxious that he knelt down on the ground and kowtowed. Please, for the sake of our clansmen, please stop. Lin Cece became more and more angry. He was so angry that he couldn't speak. Asking him to bow his head to a grandson? Absolutely impossible. But Lin Sun narrowed his eyes and finally sighed. I can give your father a chance to surrender just because you kneel down. Speaking of this, he looked at Lin Cece coldly and said, Didn't you ask me what qualifications I have to be shrewd? It's very simple, power. Whoosh. As soon as his voice disappeared, his figure flashed and he punched at Lin Cece. The fist force was vast and simple, with a charm of returning to nature. It was simple and unpretentious, but it was like an ancient god lifting a mountain and oppressing the universe. All the people present were shocked. Was he going to fight like this? It was too strong. Anyway, Lin Cece was also an experienced practitioner of reincarnation developing realm. How could he, a young man of Tao Insight realm, provoke him? Even the Red Eagle King, who was watching from afar, could not help but feel his eyelids twitch. Was his master going to fight across realms and suppress the reincarnation development state? Today, I will teach you what it means to not humiliate your elders. Lin Cece was so angry that he began to laugh. He was furious to the extreme. His figure shone, and his might shot into the heavens, shattering the clouds. With a loud shout, he leapt up. No, Lin Tianlong panicked, but it was already too late to stop him. Father, what kind of status do you have? How can you compromise with that brat? With grandfather here, could it be that the sky will collapse? A young man in a luxurious robe rushed over and helped Lin Tianlong, who was kneeling on the ground. His face was filled with dissatisfaction and anger. But Lin Tianlong was angered to the point of slapping the young man's face, causing blood to spray from the latter's mouth and nose while his body was instantly blasted flying and emitted a shrill cry. The strength behind Lin Tianlong's slap was obvious. But this was not the end. At this moment, Lin Tianlong was like a furious lion. He ruthlessly kicked his son's stomach and stared at the latter with an incomparably cold and furious gaze. He gritted his teeth and said, "If you dare to say another word, I will immediately cripple you." He was furious. At this time, his son still did not have any sense of propriety. If Lin Sun heard this, was it any different from courting death? The young man in the luxurious robe trembled all over. He was frightened by Lin Tianlong's cold and awe-inspiring gaze. He realized that his father was not joking. At the same time that this little episode happened, Lin Sun and Lin Cece had already engaged in a fierce battle. The heaven and earth were shaking, and the terrifying airflow of destruction swept across. In the void, Lin Sun's figure was like an illusion. He used the ice dragon steps like a banished immortal, and his fists were like rain, swallowing everything. Even in a battle with a reincarnation development state practitioner, he was not at a disadvantage at all. Lin Cece repeatedly used his killing moves, but it was still of no avail. This made him shocked and angry, and he realized that something was wrong. He knew that he had underestimated Lin Sun, but he still could not imagine how a teenager in his teens, even if he had already reached the Tao Insight realm, could fight against him. This seemed to be too shocking and inconceivable. There was a big realm between the Tao Insight realm and the Reincarnation Development realm. In the past, Lin Cece could easily kill a practitioner in the Tao Insight realm with a flip of his hand. But now it had changed. Lin Sun's fighting capacity and fighting will were so strong that they were completely beyond Lin Cece's expectation and imagination. Like a monster against the natural order, Lin Sun broke the barrier between realms and showed a strong foundation that could fight across realms. This was undoubtedly too terrifying. At least in the whole Forbidden City, there was no one who could compare with Lin Sun. Humph! Lin Cece's face was livid. He took a deep breath and used his secret method. His power became more and more powerful, and he exerted the power of a practitioner in the reincarnation development realm to the extreme. If he couldn't defeat Lin Sun today, it would absolutely be a great shame. If it was spread out, Lin Cece would never be able to raise his head again. As a great practitioner in the reincarnation development realm, who was also Lin Sun's grandfather, he couldn't do anything to Lin Sun. Wasn't this shameful and shameful enough? Boom! Lin Cece was angry, and his power suddenly changed, which made all the people present exclaim. It was the first time for them to witness a top battle of this scale. But to everyone's horror, even under such circumstances, Lin Sun was still not suppressed. His whole body was flowing with light cyan Tao, his clothes fluttered, and an ice-hornless dragon coiled around him. His aura became more and more extraordinary. In his hand, the broken blade let out a faint and clear sound, and the saber light shot out crisscross the void. It rushed straight to the bull, and even tore the void open a shocking crack. How could he be so strong? Originally, the Lin clansmen of Westbrook still had strong confidence in Lin Cece, but now this confidence began to be shaken. Red Eagle King stared at Lin Cece without blinking, and he was also shocked. He knew the terror and strength of a peerless king in the Tao Insight realm, but he didn't expect that Lin Cece could be strong enough to fight against a great practitioner in the reincarnation development realm. Master's foundation, how terrifying has it reached? Red Eagle King couldn't see through it. The power Lin soon showed refreshed his cognition again and again, making him palpitate in awe, and his admiration for Lin soon became more and more fanatical. Boom! In the void, there was an earth-shattering collision, and the deafening divine light splashed in all directions, making the onlookers' blood boil and stars appear before their eyes. Lin soon held the broken blade in his hand, and the saber light pierced through the sky, cutting the sky above and the void below, turning and turning, and the sharpness was unstoppable. Too strong. Lin Tianlong, Lin Yenshan, Lin Pingdu, and the others looked more and more gloomy. They realized that Lin soon dared to come to them alone because he really had nothing to fear. It was ridiculous that they had regarded Lin Sun as prey before. At this time, on the battlefield, Lin Cece's face was unprecedentedly dignified. He stared at the young man in front of him and was shocked. The power Lin Sun showed was absolutely unprecedented in the Tao Insight realm. The most terrible thing was that he had such attainments in the Tao at such a young age. If he continued to grow in the future, how terrifying would he become? Suddenly Lin Cece shouted coldly, "You want to defeat me with this kind of power and make me surrender? Ridiculous." "Really?" Lin Sun looked indifferent and just waved his saber. A piece of bright light flowed, steaming like a dream, and there appeared a shocking vision of thousands of stars falling and the everlasting night coming. RFS. The power of this saber seemed to be covered with the everlasting night, wrapped in the momentum of thousands of falling stars. It appeared in the world at this moment, and the extraordinary power made the sky, the earth, and people change their expressions at the same time. Chop! The saber light suddenly chopped down. Bang! An explosion resounded as divine radiance erupted like a volcano, and it illuminated the night sky. Everyone present almost coughed up blood while their vision became blurry. Some people with slightly weaker strengths even squatted down on the ground while their entire bodies were drenched in cold sweat. Dang, dang, dang! In the void, Lin Cece's figure retreated, and his face turned blue and white. Just now, even if he had tried his best to resolve it, he still had to retreat. A mouthful of old blood was stuck in his throat, and he almost spat it out. "This saber has some power, but it's not enough to defeat me," he roared in disbelief. He was a great practitioner in the reincarnation developing realm, and he couldn't accept it. His figure burst into light, and his long hair was disheveled. He was completely angry and attacked desperately. Chop! Lin Sun looked calm, like an old well without any ripples. The broken saber swept through the air like a galaxy sweeping down from the ninth heaven. Boom! The void burst and roared, and this area was submerged. All the people present had already retreated far away in fear of being affected. With a puff, Lin Cece finally couldn't bear it. He was chopped by this saber and coughed up blood. His old face turned pale and he staggered. Lin Tianlong and the others all changed their expressions, their scalps were numb, and their hands and feet were trembling. It was one thing to be able to fight against a practitioner in the reincarnation developing realm, but it was another thing to be able to defeat a practitioner in the reincarnation developing realm in a duel. These two were completely different concepts. Now Lin Sun, as a Tao Insight realm cultivator, had shaken Lin Cece continuously, and even made him cough up blood and sustain injuries. This was too terrifying. Again. In the void, Lin Cece's hair was disheveled, and his eyes were bloodshot. He was like an enraged beast, roaring and continuing to attack. In short, he couldn't accept it. Chop! Lin Sun's expression became more and more indifferent, and his black eyes were deep and cold. The broken saber swept up, and at this moment it was like a scorching sun rising and then exploding. The bright and blazing luster was so dazzling that most people present couldn't open their eyes. It was too dazzling, and there was a great terror that could destroy the world. Even Red Eagle King's scalp was numb, and an incomparably strong sense of crisis surged in his heart. He couldn't help but shout and retreat far away. Boom! Under this blow, Lin Sisi's hair and beard were burnt, and his skin was scorched black and cracked. His clothes were ragged, and his whole body was pressed hard to the ground, creating a large pit. His whole body was twitching, and he looked miserable and embarrassed, like a burnt stick, which was unbearable to look at. Lin Sun was a little surprised. Under this blow, even Nyo Tunshin, the top saint, could not bear it, but Lin Sisi was only seriously injured, which showed the tyrannical power of a great practitioner of reincarnation development realm. At this time, there was a dead silence in the field. No one spoke, and everyone was dumbfounded as they watched all this. Defeated, defeated? Someone said in a trembling voice. Indeed defeated, someone was in a daze. This shock was too great. For Westbrook Lin Sisi was like a stabilizing force. But now, he was defeated. Not at the hands of a big shot of the same realm, nor at the hands of a more terrible life-and-death realm king, but by the saber of a junior of the clan. This junior was just a teenager, and his cultivation was only at the Tao Insight realm. This was undoubtedly a fiasco, a complete collapse. All the eyes looking at Lin Sun became complicated, shocked and confused. It was hard to imagine how such a young man could be so nature-defying and terrible. At such a young age, being able to set foot in the ranks of great practitioners was already eye-catching, enough to overshadow his peers. But Lin Sun did not just set foot in the ranks of great practitioners. Tonight, he defeated a great practitioner of reincarnation development realm who had been famous for many years. This was the most shocking thing. Master, perhaps he can be called the youngest Tao Insight realm king in the world. His fighting capacity is absolutely superior to other kings of the same realm. After all, who has ever seen a fierce character like Master who can suppress a great practitioner of reincarnation development realm? Red Eagle King murmured in his heart. He even had some doubts that even if Lin Sun defeated Lin Sisi, Lin Sun did not use his full strength. Because he won too directly and simply, fiercely killing, forcefully suppressing, and from the beginning to the end, he was never injured. Now, do you admit defeat? In the field, Lin Sun put away the broken saber and came to Lin Sisi's side, looking down at the miserable old man on the ground with a calm expression. There was no mercy. Even if Lin Sisi was his second grandfather according to seniority. But in Lin Sun's heart, the only difference tonight was whether he was a traitor or not. Lin Sisi raised his head with difficulty. With a touch of unspeakable loss and sadness in his dim eyes, he said hoarsely, "If your grandfather knew you in the underworld, he would be pleased and proud of you." He straightened up with a haggard look and empty eyes, saying, "Don't worry. From today on, Westbrook Lins will not have a trace of disobedience. I only hope that you can forgive those innocent clansmen for the sake of the ancestors of Lin family." Lin Sun nodded, "Of course." Lin Sisi forced a smile, stood up tremblingly and said, "Maybe it's really a blessing that Lin family has a person like you in charge. I will persuade your third grandfather to surrender. I just hope there will be no more unnecessary killings tonight. Anyway, we are a family after all, aren't we?" After saying that, he staggered away. "I only promised to let go of the innocent, but I didn't promise to let go of those traitors," Lin Sun said calmly. In the distance, Lin Sisi stiffened all over. After a long silence, he suddenly let out a sigh like a sob, full of sadness. Retribution! His voice reverberated in the night, adding to the endless loneliness. At this time, the clansmen of Westbrook Lins in the field were all pale. They all knew that from tonight on, Their fate was completely controlled by the terrible demon-like teenager in front of them. Was it over? No. At least for Lin Sun, the good play had just begun,